It is 6 Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on this Thursday, December 12th. We're on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. We're off and running. We got a whole show planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open. Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or you can text us. Text messages come right in here to the studio on the Dan Caplos Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. So, show today, we're going to talk San Diego Sper Sanctuary city policy. We're going to be joined by Rory O'Neill to talk about these flying drones over New Jersey. Blake brought these up yesterday. I don't know if you've seen the videos. These things are like the size of trucks flying around.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
Yeah. And luckily, we know that there's one New Jersey state lawmaker that has gotten to the bottom of it. He says they're coming from the mothership.
Yeah, the Iranian mothership.
Yeah. Okay. Does that seem reasonable? That's reasonable if there's a mothership that is close enough off of our coast to launch car-sized drones. I mean, I just want to know, how much time did this particular lawmaker, when that spark of inspiration in the back of his mind and that thought got his little tiny running shoes and ran through his brain down towards his mouth, did he take any time at all to consider what was about to spew from his face hole? No, not at all. Because you would have spent 30 seconds thinking about it. You would have gone, this seems kind of stupid.
I mean, so there's so many directions to go there. First of all, Iranian mothership was not on my 2024 bingo card. But then secondly, here's a backwards country that can hardly educate its own people, and yet it figured out a way to build a mothership.
Yes. And then pilots it off the coast of America and launch car-sized drones. If they had car-sized drones, why isn't it like Hamas and Hezbollah have them? Why is it flying over Israel? I mean, if you were looking at where Iran would really be considered about where they were going to move their levers of power, I don't think Jersey is going to be at the top of the whiteboard inside. Like, here at the meeting of the Iranian military, we need to talk about our largest people that are causing problems right now. No, it's not Israel. No, not at all. No, it's Jersey. Jersey, that's where we have to go. Yes, we must make sure we can disrupt the air traffic control over Jersey. That is our number one goal today. Let's get on it, guys.
Like any good hoax, you know that alcohol is likely involved.
Oh, absolutely.
I think back to the crop circles, and those ended up just being a bunch of farmers messing around with their friends.
I love that. And some of the Bigfoot tracks, some guys admitted, it was a Bigfoot shoe prints. We just walked around the woods for a while.
They've done that on beaches too, and down in Florida.
Yeah. I think it's great.
So, Bill,
yes,
I know I'd surprise you on this. But this is, and I'm the king of Instagram shopping. This is my Christmas gift for you.
Oh, I got to open this. Okay. Now, first of all, for the people that are not joining us on the Rumbles, the YouTube, the Twitters, the X's, the stuff like that, this is really nice. So, Jeff, it's adorable little penguin wrapping, and I don't think Jeff knows how much I like penguins.
And not a chance in hell, I actually wrapped that.
I was impressed because the corners are really well done. And the thing is, the reason I admire this is because I do the vast majority of wrapping in our family. My wife is pretty good at it, but for my parents, I was the wrapping kid.
Really?
Oh yeah, my parents just set up a wrapping station in the house and said, "You do it." So I figured out how to do it. Yeah. So I'm really good at wrapping. This is a nice
that is the commitment of my wife. A quality gift experience for you.
And even now this is how I probably should have guessed that it's white, because as everybody sees here on the camera, it's got the red bow, and that's a girl thing. Guys don't do bows. We have no idea. In fact, girls are the ones that save the bows. Now, everybody that has a significant woman in their life knows you have a bag of things like gift bags that you never use.
Right.
You also save all of the bows.
Yes.
Do you reuse them? Not anymore. But we all put them in the bag, and we all tell our loving wives and significant others that we are saving these because we don't want to have that fight. So that's why this happens. So there we go. Very nice. Okay, we're going to open this up. Oh, so I didn't even bring this to this.
You didn't know. I totally dropped this on you. But
okay. Here we go.
I saw these and I was like,
okay, oh my God, this is a surprise. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at this. This is, oh my God, this is an apron with my face all over it. This is fantastic. Oh my God, this almost is begging for my wife to wear. And the straps come with it and everything. This is beautiful. That looks just like it. This is fantastic. Oh, that is wonderful. That is beautiful, my friend.
The king, undisputed king of Instagram shopping.
That is wonderful. You are the king. That is beautiful. That is fantastic. So basically, he's taking the promotional photo that for some reason they chose here at the station, which is probably, I don't take big photos. And they did a wonderful job with it. And so it's that photo all over. You know, that conglomeration you have all over the t-shirts and this.
Yes.
And I love the fact that it's an apron because I do use aprons around the house, especially when you go. I need this. My wife, we always talk about you can tell immediately who's been cooking. Now, she and I both can cook and do a really good job, but the amount of mess that is there around the kitchen is a clear indication as to who has been doing the cooking. If it looks like something possibly exploded and caught on fire, then it was me. The stuff's still going to taste good, but it is going to be a mess. It is going to be an absolute mess. She's very good at it. I have to clean as I go. Otherwise, there's too much dirt and stuff around the place.
That
she
is
walks in and
funny.
goes, "What did you do?"
Well, that's a good gift for that.
That's fantastic. And also, I'm going to have tremendous joy when she has to wear it. Because she does that as well. So, this is going to be broken. This is coming. We're going to wear this for Christmas dinner. For Christmas, whenever it comes over, I'm wearing that.
I knew you would love it. So,
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas from
Thank
us
you.
to
That is
you
so awesome. That is
with
so
a fun little person.
Oh, I'm so excited. That is so cool. Thank you so much.
You can never go wrong with putting your friends' faces on
No.
stuff. I
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, anything at all. It could be anything. You can put your friends' faces on it. It can't go wrong at all. Oh, that is fantastic. Thank you so much.
You bet.
That is
Very
so cool.
happy to. Well, let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey guys, that's pretty cool. Now you said Instagram shopping. That's
Oh, yeah.
where you found it.
Oh, somewhere Etsy, something. It popped up there.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
In
But-
fact,
So it has Billy's face all over this.
yeah,
This
I
is
know.
Awesome.
So it's going to make like little children cry and pets afraid. And it's going to be fantastic. In fact, now that Jeff talks about the Instagram, he is the king of Instagram shopping. One of the biggest hurdles that marketers are having right now is having to deal with TikTok and Instagram shopping because it is so effective. And it maximizes engagement and emotional connection to the object that many marketers are trying to figure out how they can take some of their larger, more traditional marketing and capture what goes on inside that space. It's remarkable.
Well, and your Instagram surfing after a few beers in the evening, watching
Yeah.
TV, and there's
Everything
stuff
starts looking
that is
best.
showing up the next day. I'm like,
I love that thing.
I didn't
man.
even. Oh yeah, I did.
Yes. Oh, I remember seeing that. That's fantastic.
awesome.
That is
I want-
wonderful.
I think we need to make a Jeff and Billy one with both your faces on
And then
it.
Oh, that'd be good.
sell it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We gotta
Let's
get,
go.
What we should do is we should make it as a Hawaiian shirt.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Hawaiian shirt
there.
with our faces
Absolutely.
on it.
Great
That's what we
idea.
No, that's really good. I'm sure they could deliver that to us tomorrow, right? Yeah, they
Oh,
can
sure.
do anything.
Yes,
these
they
days.
can.
All right, let's get on with it. Good morning to 24 and clear in Denver. Expecting a high of 49 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Sleepy Joe, is commuting the sentences of about 1,500 people and pardoning 39 others convicted of nonviolent crimes. The White House says today's announcement is the single largest one-day act of clemency in modern history. Biden says he plans to grant more clemency in the final weeks of his presidency. I bet he does. First Lady Jill, full of joy these days.
So I hope that you all feel that sense of, peace and light, and that just for a moment when you leave here today, that you feel, I don't know, a sense of joy. Because I think we all need like this, we all need to feel joy now during this time of the season, during this time. So anyway, okay, now I'll start. You're all reading into that.
Yeah, is she trolling Kamala Khan or what? Maybe she should get a joyful face apron like Billy just received. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said the proposed grocery store merger being called off is a win for the state. Albertsons announced that it was calling off the $25 billion merger with Kroger after a judge blocked the deal a day earlier. Weiser, who took legal action to stop the merger, said it would have harmed competition and the remedies that were offered were insufficient to protect consumers. Voters in Superior and Boulder County approved the move to home rule on Tuesday, with more than 1,600 residents voting yes on the measure. 93% of all Colorado residents live in communities that operate under home rule. The charter will take effect immediately once the election results are certified. Luigi Mangione, suspected of carrying out the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, could face additional charges in connection with the murder. Manhattan DA Fat Alvin Bragg, remember him? He says as investigators learn more about potential motives, Mangione could end up being charged with other crimes. A report years in the making about the DOJ's actions in the days before the attack or possible setup on the U.S. Capitol is expected soon. The DOJ Inspector General's office, a watchdog for the agency, said the report has been delayed in part because of criminal investigations into the attack. Speaking of criminals, possibly, potentially, Nancy Pelosi heckled for 2 minutes on Wednesday and then goes to the pray for the hostages card. So it builds up for about a minute and a half, and then Pelosi pulls out the card.
Let us bow our heads for the hostages and be careful about the hostages, which they never mention. So,
wow, that regime did a lot for the hostages. 4 people were injured and thousands had to be evacuated after an underground fire caused a power failure in the New York subway. City officials say about 3,500 riders had to be evacuated from 2 trains that stalled in Brooklyn last night. 4 people suffered minor injuries when the trains came to a stop. The Pentagon is pushing back on a New Jersey congressman's claims, as Jeff and Billy were just talking about, that foreign adversaries like Iran may be behind the mysterious drones that have been flying over the Garden State. Republican Congressman Van True believes Iran launched a mothership about a month ago that contained the drones. He hasn't said where he is getting his information from. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at LairFireplacePatio.com. 6-time Super Bowl champion head coach Bill Belichick, now the new head coach at the University of North Carolina, locked the doors at the sorority house.
22. These are really now in college.
Yes.
Coach, I saw Tom Brady being like, oh, that's never going to happen because he's just, to go from the pros to college, that doesn't happen, right? Why do you do it?
Well, yeah, I mean, coaches want to continue to coach. That's what they do. But
Point. Very good.
and UNC has a lot of money, even though they're a basketball school. UNC, North Carolina, that is. And they love college football. They want a winner. They've been craving a winner for a long time. And nowadays, with the NIL and the transfer portal and everything else, now colleges, universities, and college football programs hiring general managers. It's basically going to be like professional football. It already is.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't have to recruit like he used to. I mean, like college football coaches used to. Now it's all about the money and how much these guys can make. And then, it's going to be attractive to players who say, hey, Bill Belichick can help me get in the door and help me prepare for the NFL. He knows what NFL coaches look for, and it's a big selling point. And sometimes college, big time college jobs are better than the NFL.
I have a theory about this, and I could be totally and completely wrong because I am on a regular basis. So I have a theory as to why he went back to UNC. One, you're right, it's coaching. Coaches want to coach. And I still think that Belichick has it in his system, especially after how it went once he separated with Brady. It was always the question of, was it Brady, was it Belichick? Brady, was it Belichick? They split up, and Brady goes and wins another title. Belichick's team falls to the bottom of the division. So I think he still has something to prove. This is my theory behind it. He's trying to get another NFL job. I think that Belichick was surprised that his phone didn't start ringing off the hook, especially with some of the coaching changes and problems they have right now. I think he is surprised. I think he probably thought that I'm getting back in immediately. And I have a theory that this UNC job was first supposed to be I would say a entree to open a conversation with an NFL team, saying, hey, if you guys don't want to come get me, I'm going to go to UNC. If you're really interested, hey, Chicago Bears, worried about coaches. If you just want me to hang on for a couple more games, you probably should talk to me. And I think that's what he tried. And again, the phone didn't ring. So I believe that what he's doing now is he's doing the hardball play. He's going to go to college, try to do as much as he possibly can, and even get into the national championship conversation if he can, and then use that to get back into the NFL.
Oh, we're having too much fun on this Thursday
Yes, we
morning.
are, especially off air too.
That's in part because this is Billy's last day this week.
Yeah, I know. You guys are in
He's
charge.
going to be out of town tomorrow.
Well, we got someone really cool. We got Heidi Nelson.
Hi,
That is going to be awesome. And Jeff Hilderman will be here. I got family stuff to take care of. I got to go deal with some stuff that's not awful, not like life-threatening or anything else. Just it's a pain point. It's been a pain point for the last 18 months that I can't get something involved in a family project resolved. And I've got a window of opportunity tomorrow, so we are going to take that window of opportunity. But yeah,
my favorite will be all the text messages tomorrow that are like, "They finally got rid of it."
Exactly. I can't wait to see him and count out those. We should get gifts for all and send them to ours since they started that.
Pictures of themselves
I know, it's gonna be great.
aprons.
Yeah.
You're going to get text messages about that.
I know. I saw that. Someone was insulting me about wearing an apron and saying it wasn't masculine. I'm like, you are so right. I can't believe that such a non-masculine male like myself and wait, there was another one. There was Donald Trump who wore an apron in McDonald's. I can't believe that both myself and Donald Trump would denigrate ourselves and take away our pure, just obvious masculinity by placing on an apron. Why would you do that? Why would Donald Trump take away his alpha male energy by placing an apron on himself during that McDonald's thing? Maybe it's because aprons aren't wussy. That's okay, though. It's just about keeping your clothes clean. That's all it is, man.
Breadman going, look, Iranian mothership, not too far-fetched when you think about the Chinese spy balloons. budget.
Yeah.
But when you compare the safety budget with the housing budget, it's huge. The housing budget is much, much bigger than the entire safety budget for the city of Denver.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of messed up priorities in the city of Denver. But this is what I think is going to happen. Once Trump gets in, I think people are going to flee to these sanctuary cities and states. You're going to see a lot more illegal immigrants coming to Denver, going to San Diego, going to Colorado and California. They're going to use up resources. So you're going to see cuts in programs to citizens. That's my prediction.
And I think that's, and if that is what it happens, then I think that in some ways is the market taking care of itself. I mean, that to me is like Adam Smith's invisible hand to a certain extent. It's not a great analogy, but it is the migration. If things are becoming more difficult in one area, they're going to go to another area. That's kind of the idea behind why they crossed all that distance in order to get here in the first place. It was too difficult where they were and easier here. It's going to be, I think, whether or not they're all going to be classified as illegal is going to still be a question, because as long as they show up at a port of entry and claim asylum, then they're allowed in. And depends on what Trump does with the Biden app that allows you to set an appointment with a person to talk about asylum, and you show up at the border and they have a time to be there. So what they're going to do with that, if they shut down that system, or how they're going to change the system, I think that has a lot to do with it. And also, I'm not convinced that if you do not change the immigration process, that you're going to fix the system, because even with Tom Homan and all the, we're going to crack down, we're going to deport all these people, I still say that our system, the way it is set up, is an incentive for illegal immigration, because if it takes you a decade to immigrate to America, a lot of people aren't going to wait, especially if you're in a situation where you don't think you have 10 years to wait, where you're like, I can't live in this situation and raise my family and assume that my kids are still going to be breathing 2 years from now, let alone 10 years from now. So until we fix that, I get the question. Also, I saw something raised the other day that I hadn't thought about, but so far, Trump has talked about naming Tom Homan his border czar.
Yeah.
That's not a position that exists. It doesn't really exist in the structure of government. It's not a confirmable Senate appointment.
Yeah, he's going to be the ICE director.
Yeah, but again, but borders are that idea, and so he'll be ICE director. But what does that mean as far as the mechanisms that he has available to him?
Oh, to implement policy.
Exactly.
Yeah, because right now that would fall under Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yeah, it would, and he can't activate National Guard or use military on his own, and so.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. San Diego is becoming a super sanctuary city. What's going to happen to Denver, Colorado, and Trump? Denver, Colorado, and San Diego, California, when Trump all of a sudden starts to implement his mass deportation policies, are illegal immigrants going to flee to these communities now, and we're going to even have bigger problems as a result? That's what we're talking about. Let's go to Marcus Aurora. Good morning, Marcus. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So the National Guard is a dual task force, and that's why they got the name Weekend Warriors. And I'll read something really short and fast, because being an Army RA and you got your reserves and everything else, meaning that its members serve both the state and federal governments. While federal regulations govern much of the Guard's organization function, control of the personnel and units is divided between the states and the federal government. The National Guard can be federalized but kept under state control, with the federal government paying for the deployment. Sorry about that. Got a cold.
No, that's very helpful. It's what you saw during the desegregation efforts in the South. So Donald Trump could absolutely nationalize the Colorado National Guard and put them to work in mass deportations. And
now
Jarhead would have to fight it.
And that's true.
Yeah, no.
And there's nothing that the state could do, because the federal government subsedes the states.
Yeah,
you're right. There'll be some law. There'll be some legal issues. But what about him doing something like nationalizing the Arkansas National Guard and then telling them to go to New Mexico?
Right.
That's going to create something whole different.
I don't know, Billy.
Yeah, Marcus, I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah,
great
I have
call,
no
Marcus.
idea what we're talking about and who controls the National Guard, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We'll continue our conversation about San Diego and Sper Sanctuary cities and what Denver's going to do with Donald Trump and massive deportations.
But I got a really good question from a listener that we're going to address as well.
We'll get to all of that to you into the next hour. But Bill, we got to carve out a little time for what the people really want.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we make questionable choices with this valuable airtime. It's something we call You Choose the News. It's America's favorite fake radio news game show. We have scoured the interwebs this morning for mere moments to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show because nobody in charge wakes up until 7 o'clock. Once we found out that their alarms don't go off until 7, we are going to take full advantage. This is why Jeff and I repeatedly got into trouble when we were teenagers. So again, lessons to our parents and much apologies. Alrighty. Now, gentlemen, Blake Olson joining us for the news. And Jeff, you know how it works. Here we go, sirs. Your headline choices. Headline number 1, hello, sweetie. Headline number 2, poop is the obvious solution. Headline number 3, every teenage boy will understand. And headline number 4, no habla, no problem.
Well, we've got a bunch of teenage boys, so let's start there.
Every teenage boy will understand this problem. Now, we are going to journey to the wonderful oceans of the earth because migration is somewhat of a problem for some of the largest mammals on the planet, the humpback whale. Recently, a male humpback whale did a remarkable feat. He embarked on an epic journey across 3 oceans. He covered a distance of over 8,000 miles.
No way.
Yes, an unprecedented journey. Never seen a migration like this before. Why? Because he wanted to get some. Yeah. The scientists
looking for those lady whales.
Yes. The scientists believe that the whale's migration was simply an idea of going and checking out the new bars. He was exploring new waters because he had been rebuffed by a number of females in his traditional mating grounds. So he said, yeah, they don't like my vibe here. Maybe I'm going to have to go find some other ladies that like the way I dance. And so maybe how you doing?
8,000 miles.
Yes. And again, at a teenage boy, if they said, you got 18,000 miles to see the boobs, you'd go like, I'm walking right now. Yes, absolutely. In a second, you would leave the house with a backpack and a sandwich. All right, thank you. Here, sir. Hello, sweetie. Poop is the obvious solution or no habla.
No habla, no problem.
Yeah, no habla, no problem. That's what Nigel Richards of New Zealand figured out. No habla, no problem. Because Mr. Richards recently won the Spanish World Travel Championships, despite the fact that he doesn't speak language. Yes, he won the Scrabble World Championships while not speaking Spanish in Spain. Yes. Now, he's done this once before. Back in 2015, he bested several hundred people in the French Scrabble World Championships, and he won there too. Doesn't speak French. No, he has an incredible memory. He has the ability. What he does is he goes through the official Scrabble dictionary of that language. He goes through and almost verbatim memorizes the pages. He has near photographic memory. So all he has to do is go through the pages and he knows the words, regardless of he doesn't understand the meaning.
Crazy.
Yes. So he beat almost 145 different competitors. The person that came in second, who does speak Spanish, said, this is rather humbling.
Yeah, seriously.
I know. You lose to a dude that doesn't even speak the language. Isn't that cool? Alrighty. Jeff Hunt, final choice this morning, sir. Hello, sweetie. Or poop is the obvious solution.
I'm a
That's
rancher.
a dangerous one.
So we're going to go with the poop one.
Poop is the obvious solution. Here we're going to talk about the Dartmouth-led study that recently says maybe the solution to climate change is a bunch of poop we just drop in the ocean. Yes, here's the idea. What they're looking at is they're trying to accelerate the ocean's natural carbon removal process, and they're looking at adding clay dust into the marine ecosystem. What it's going to do is enhance the efficiency of what they're calling a biological pump. It's a natural transfer of carbon from the atmosphere down to the deep ocean. Normally, only a small fraction of the carbon that is captured on the surface of the ocean makes it into the deep for long-term storage and use by other marine mammals. But these science hippies have found out that if you sprinkle clay dust into the top of the water, what happens is it begins to follow algae blooms. Once it connects with those large algae blooms, which are toxic, they can span hundreds of square miles and absorb vast amounts of carbon dioxide. What they do is normally the blooms die and the organic carbon is just released back into the atmosphere. Well, if the clay particles, it sinks down into the lower surfaces where zooplankton eat it, poop it out, and then it revitalizes the ocean. So yes, it could be a bunch of poop that could save the planet.
Telling you, ranchers know how to use everything.
Yes.
For the good.
And
We don't let anything go to waste.
And that's it. That's the end of You Choose the News, my friends. Back to you.
That's fantastic. We'll continue our conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is about to launch a new project in Saudi Arabia. Eric Trump making the announcement on X saying, quote, incredibly proud to officially launch a project that has been underway for many months. Trump Tower, Jeddah. Thank you to our partners, Dar Global. This will be our 5th project together and among the most luxurious buildings anywhere in the world. The $530 million hotel is just the first of 3 projects in the Middle Eastern country built in Saudi Arabia's 2nd largest city. According to the companies, the hotel will feature 47 floors and 350 residential apartments. Construction will take about 4 years. The gun found on Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, matches shell casings found at the scene of the crime.
First, we got the gun in question back from Pennsylvania. It's now at the NYPD crime lab. We were able to match that gun to the 3 shell casings that we found in Midtown at the scene of the homicide. We were also able at our crime lab to match the person of interest's fingerprints with fingerprints that we found on both the water bottle and the Kind bar near the scene of the homicide.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. We're off and running. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this right here is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. I want to provide a little bit of context on Tom Homan responding to San Diego. We didn't get to this because you choose the news and some other things. But all right, so San Diego now wants to be a, quote, super sanctuary city. Democrats are not backing off on this idea that a majority of Americans want mass deportations. If you remember in the polls prior to the election, it's well over 60%. Like, yeah, this is just too big of a problem. Guys, we've allowed in the last 4 years like 10, 11, 12 million illegal immigrants. Cities can't afford their budgets anymore. They're cutting. Denver Health had to implement a new sales tax just to be able to continue to operate because it's lost so much money to illegal immigrants. Reports coming from Common Sense Institute saying last few years, I mean, well over $300 million spent on illegal immigrants. When you look at schools, hospitals, police, housing, all that stuff that's taken place. So we're just running out of money. And these Democrat leaders are taking money, going to programs for the people that voted them in, the actual citizens of the community, and taking money from them in order to provide these programs for illegal immigrants. And you would think that Democrats may want to back away from them. No, they're not. They're doubling down. Mike Johnston saying, I'm willing to be the next Nelson Mandela in order to protect illegal immigrants. Go to prison if I have to. By the way, he's a rich kid from Vail. He's not going to last 2 seconds in prison. San Diego wanted to become a super sanctuary city. This is what Tom Homan said in response in Newsweek. You've got San Diego writing legislation. You've got Colorado and other states and other cities saying they're going to prevent us from doing what I'm doing. I want to send a clear message. If you let us in the jail, we can arrest the bad guy in the jail and in the safety and security of the jail. One officer could do that, okay? And this is Tom Homan clearly reflecting on the fact that their first priority is going to be violent criminals that are here illegally. One officer can do that. He's already in jail. But when you, San Diego, Denver, Mike Johnston, release a public safety threat back into the community, you put the community at risk. You put my officers at risk. You put even the alien himself at risk. Still, Democrats rallying nationwide to oppose Trump's immigration policies.
Dude, is it a risk?
Yeah, if they have to go get them, if they're violent. So in that case, he's talking about violent offenders.
And that's the thing is it necessarily always about the violent offenders with him? I'm curious, because when we talk about the criminals, even the most recent conversation on Meet the Press, Trump went back and said the original crime is coming into the country. So you're a criminal at that point. And I think that's where Homan is going to have some problems, is that some of what you'd assume are non-violent offenders, that's a more difficult task to handle and to take.
But his point being, though, if they're already in jail and you and your little sanctuary policies, being a, quote, super sanctuary city, are going to allow those violent criminals back out of the jail to now we have to go chase them down, you're putting the entire community back at risk.
Yes, and maybe yes, and maybe no, because could you say that bail for any violent criminal then would put the community at risk? So with the idea of no bail at all if you're accused of a violent crime, is that where we're going? Because what I'm having, and this is just intellectual exercise.
Sure.
The idea of Tom just saying, well, somehow the illegals are more dangerous than the U.S. citizens. And again, that's where he's drawing this line, and he's making this assumption that he's saying, well, obviously these illegals are much more violent and much more dangerous, and what are you possibly doing? So why, again, if the community decided that the person was a violent criminal, whatever, and they put him in prison for a while and then release them just like an American citizen, they paid their debt to that portion of society. Could the state or the city be allowed to make that choice? And how is that different than someone that's American? And that's where I push back on Tom, where it's, again, we have to go back to the original crime is the crossing the border illegally. And that's not necessarily a violent act. So some of his, tag-ons beyond that make it more difficult. But
and if you were just born here of illegal parents,
that's going to be even worse. And
are you heading back?
And we had this is a great place to bring in a caller from last hour. Didn't get a chance to do it right away. And what she had brought up very eloquently was, what about the killer of Laken Riley?
Yeah.
He was deported 6 times and came back a 7th. So the idea of, and this is something that she said, she thinks that a lot of people are leaving out of the conversation. What tells us that they won't come back? Because we already have proof of someone who had been deported 6 times, came back a 7th, ended up murdering someone. So just because you round up all of these criminals and send them back home to their country doesn't mean you've necessarily solved the problem. Yet we are assuming that you've solved the problem. And she's like, what about that? It's a great question. It's a great question.
Now, in Laken Riley's case, I mean, he's already committed the murder. So I think that the best penalty is to fly back over Venezuela and just push him out the back of a plane.
Again, for revenge, I'm okay with that one. The crazy thing is, if you take him because he's a murderer and send him back to Venezuela because of Maduro, he's not going to prison. He's not. He's going to be a free man.
No, but he's hitting the ground at a very fast rate.
Yeah, again, I based on the revenge side of it, and the only way I would acquiesce and agree to your plan to push him out of the airplane is if Laken Riley's family gets to do it. If anybody else gets to, I don't agree with it, because I don't think that fulfills my desire for revenge. I'm okay with my desire for justice, and I balance that against my desire for revenge. And there's a dark part of me that would definitely lean into revenge. But in order to grasp that part of my soul and my heart, I need to be honest about it. I need to be honest about why I want it and what it is fulfilling and what that does to me personally as well, saying that I'm okay with that. I understand it's a huge flaw in my personality. It is a giant chasm of a flaw inside my personality, but at least I'm honest about it. That if that's what we're going to go, okay, I can get there with you. But it has to be Laken's family that pushes him out of the plane. If we do that, okay.
Well, if you need good legal representation, speaking of that, you got to check out my friend Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law, right? If you're hurt in an injury case and you're going to show up in the courtroom, you're going to want to have a team with you that is going to not only represent your values, but win, right? You show up with an attorney you saw go by on a bus billboard. That's going to send a message to everybody involved in the case, the type of person you are, what you're after. In this case, with Dan Kaplis, you get a guy that's committed to justice. Bottom line. Okay. He's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian. He's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But as I mentioned, he's also a real winner in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm. For serious cases, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, here's his phone number. Put it in your phone now, because when you need it, you don't want to be scrambling. Dan Kaplis Law, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dankaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 23 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 49 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
The person of the year who, for better or for worse, had the most influence on the news in 2024 is Donald Trump.
For better or for worse, had to just kill the Time editor-in-chief, Sam Jacobs, to make that announcement on the Today Show. They chose DJT for what the magazine called a comeback of historic proportions. The magazine added Trump is once again at the center of the world and is as strong strong a position as he has ever been. Time has given the honor to the winner of the U.S. presidential election in each race since 2000. DJT ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange this morning. He's never done that before, despite decades as a New York businessman. Stocks have risen sharply since Trump was elected in November. And I'm just seeing this right now Let's see. DJT is reported to have invited Chinese President Xi.
First time ever.
Right, to the inauguration.
If his offer is accepted, it would be unprecedented. No Chinese leader has ever attended a U.S. presidential inauguration. Indeed, no foreign leaders have attended one in more than a century.
Wow. That is
where does that hit you, Blake?
I just feel like this, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And if we want peace around the world, hey, they can live the way they want to live, and we live the way we want to live. Don't interfere. And if he comes, that's fine. But that doesn't mean we have to be China. But I think that's a good sign, actually. How about you?
I'm kind of with you on that one, where I go, maybe he's seeing America. He sees America power and might and the great traditions around the inauguration. The left will spin it as he's a Chinese plant. And then the minute he gets in, the Democrats are now going to go, we need to impeach him because he's colluding with the Chinese.
Yeah. Well, we need to end all these endless wars. And we need to understand there are sovereign nations, sovereign
Blake, there's
borders.
so much money to be made in these wars.
Yes, there is. And that's why we send our young people, since, the last 20, 30 years. I mean, it's just horrible. Americans dying in these meaningless wars that we really should not be involved in. So, hey, if we're friends with China, that's fine. Doesn't mean we have to be China, but it makes us a safer place, the way I look at it. Sleazy Joe is commuting the sentences of around 1,500 people convicted of nonviolent crimes. The White House says today's announcement is the single largest one-day act of clemency in modern history. Boulder police have 2 people in custody for allegedly stripping copper wire from an electric substation. Officers caught 1 man near the scene. University of Colorado police arrested the other suspect in a nearby vehicle after finding a large amount of copper wire inside. The wire taken was valued at about $2,000. Both suspects are facing burglary, theft, criminal mischief, and surprisingly, drug charges. A ghost gun is being linked to the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said a gun with no serial number was allegedly found with suspect Luigi Mangione when he was arrested in Pennsylvania, and it matched 3 shell casings recovered at the scene of the shooting. The Pentagon is pushing back on claims by Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew that mysterious drones spotted over New Jersey could be from Iran. New Jersey State Rep Brian Bergen, he doesn't know where they came from, but he's frustrated with it and left a meeting to update politicians, but said it was just a big waste of time.
It's just a lack of effort. I mean,
Why?
I don't know. They should be saying, you know what they should have done today with productive use of our time if they didn't know anything? Come in there and say, hey, legislators, we don't know anything. But if you get us these 10 things, do these 10 things for us, and the governor calls in this kind of action, we can figure it out. Will you help us? And then we would have helped them. But instead, it was just excuse after excuse, and we know nothing. It was infuriating, and I got up and I walked out.
You've been in the service, right?
Yeah, I was an attack helicopter pilot, Apache helicopter pilot in the Army, and I helped stand up the initial unmanned aircraft training battalion in the aviation sector of the Army. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
And Kentucky, yeah.
I wanted to talk about this real quick because we're going to get Rory O'Neill on here to provide some insight. But do you remember when the Chinese balloon was going over Montana?
Sure.
And they had to go out there and tell people to stop shooting at it? So the problem is it's New Jersey, and they've had progressives in charge in New Jersey, and now you got less guns. If this was happening in Texas, Alabama, these things would be shot down. They know where they came from. We'd be done.
Yeah, that's right. Over New Jersey, perfect place for it. That is a great point, Jeff. Kentucky Rep Thomas Massey believes the U.S. government orchestrated, or at the very least facilitated, regime change in Syria. Massey pointed out how dozens of jets and helicopters were conveniently bombed by Israel the same week the regime change occurred in Syria.
So it is your assessment that this was really an effort here before Trump gets into office to go in and basically put in place this sort of deep state CIA plan in Syria. It's clear as day to you, it seems.
It's clear as day to me. And, whether it was led by the United States or whether we just encouraged it, definitely the timing is not a mistake. When you find a turtle on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident.
6-time Super Bowl champion head coach Bill Belichick, now the new head coach at the University of North Carolina. 21 in Englewood and 20 in Highlands Ranch, 23 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Thank you very much. We've got
temperatures are going to be upper 40s and low 50s in Denver today, mid to upper 40s, a little bit more in the way of cloudiness tomorrow, 20s Friday night. The weekend starts off with not much going on. Denver will be in the low to mid 50s Saturday and Sunday. Sunday night, Monday morning, a few snow showers. Monday, a little bit colder. Another front arrives late Tuesday night and Wednesday, bringing some clouds, colder temperatures, and a few snow showers. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So who is flying these drones over New Jersey? Dozens of reports of unmanned drones, and now there are calls for a, quote, limited state of emergency, unquote, in the state. National Correspondent Rory O'Neill is going to help us understand what's happening in New Jersey and why people are concerned about the unidentified flying objects. Rory, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning, but don't make me explain what happens in New Jersey. I can't do all that.
Well, one of the things we were pointing out is that when the Chinese spy balloons were flying over Montana, they had to remind the people of Montana, stop shooting at the Chinese spy. Are they dealing with that problem in New Jersey? Are people trying to down these drones at all?
We haven't heard much reports of that, but we are seeing a lot of video footage being submitted to local authorities. Some of it are these drones. Others are just normal planes and helicopters. So it's a matter of separating what's the drone footage and what's just routine flight activity. But look, we're talking about big drones, not the kind of thing you buy at Best Buy. These things, by some accounts, are about 6 feet across. So they're big. It's like a flying car. And we're trying to figure out who's behind them, where they're coming from, where they're going, what they're doing. I've got no answers for you. Since the Pentagon, the FBI, local police, no one seems to know what these are.
And you got some speculation that it could be Iranian motherships off the coast of New Jersey that are deploying these, but I don't see a lot of technological advancement at that level coming from a place like Iran. That'd be quite a leap.
And the one thing we know is that very strong and powerful Iranian Navy. Yeah, I don't think they got a ton of ships, etc.
Look, and right now, Iran's got bigger problems than trying to poke the bear on the other side of the planet. So, this Congressman, Jeff Van Drew, said he knew it was the Iranians. And you're like, okay. The Pentagon said, we don't think there's any evidence of a foreign entity or adversary being involved here. So it's likely something more domestic. Is it Jeff Bezos testing his latest Amazon drone? Is it Pizza Hut trying to do pizza drone? Not totally unheard of at this point. But it's unclear what, if any, laws are being broken. Any drone this size, though, should be registered with the FAA. Oftentimes when they're spotted or police come out, they're turning their lights off and going away. That would be illegal activity. So there are also issues of jurisdiction. Who responds? Is it the FAA, the FBI? Is it the Pentagon? Is it your local police? Who? And then how do they respond? Do they fire their handguns at it? Do you have a shoulder-fired rocket? Do you call in an F-22? There are other technologies that we think could jam the signals here and bring these down a bit more safely. But having this thing fall from the sky probably isn't a great idea either.
Now, Rory O'Neill, NBC National News Correspondent. Obviously, it could be aliens, because if you had to pick one of the weirdest spots in America, Jersey's a pretty good bet. Maybe you had to do research on some of the weird humans, and then maybe go to Jersey. Just thinking. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And look, and these drones, they're not going away, right? So I think that the federal government and local governments need to do a better job of streamlining exactly how to respond to these kinds of sightings. Because, look, these drones may have been flying over President Trump's Bedminster golf course. They may have been flying over some military sites, some nuclear facilities. And if they are foreign actors, then we certainly want to make sure that these things are incapacitated as quickly as possible.
Has anybody considered the idea that this is a family that is trying to get themselves their own reality TV show? And the only reason I reference that, Rory O'Neill, is because here in Colorado, we famously had Balloon Boy. Yes, Balloon Boy, where it was a complete scam, where a father had said that his son had gone up in a UFO-shaped balloon and he was strapped. And so it was a huge law enforcement deal and it was all on TV here in Colorado. And it turned out that he was lying about it. And what he was trying to do is he was just trying to leverage getting a reality TV show for his family. So have we discussed the reality TV show option? Maybe it's an MTV vehicle.
I would only say that it's all, but doing this at night doesn't help as much. You're right.
Right.
Balloon Boy was, during the day and we all tuned in to watch live coverage. This is just sort of darting around at night and it's dark and you just sort of see a couple of blinking lights. So it makes for bad TV.
Oh, you're right.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC National Correspondent. Now, I'm kind of a believer in Occam's razor. So, right, if this was an actual military issue, that probably would be addressed if it was a company, like you mentioned, Jeff Bezos or Domino's wanting to deliver pizzas. They would come out and say, oh, yeah, this is us just testing things. So, similar to some of the things we've seen in the past around crop circles or even footprints. Could be some just good old boys having a little bit of beer and sending things up into the sky. Is there an element that this is just people messing around with their neighbors in New Jersey?
Well, that's we've all seen the Jersey Shore, right? So lack of poor decision making, front and center on that show, and maybe that's what's behind all this. But the size of this thing is what's so remarkable. And again, a lot of questions. I think we're going to get some answers pretty soon, though, because this became an issue at an FBI hearing yesterday. The Pentagon was asked about it yesterday. I think they're going to ramp up their response. We've all been following what happened with the execution of that health executive in New York, but I think more attention now turns to this story. I think we're going to soon see more action.
Rory O'Neill, NBC National Correspondent, thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show and talk about the New Jersey drones.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh. There's lots of jokes you can go into.
Yes,
New Jersey drones.
The New Jersey drones. Yeah. So it's not Balloon Boy's family. So, okay, fine. It's weird, though.
The dad ended up getting busted for that, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had to do, but not a ton. I don't think he did jail time. I think he entered a guilty plea. A child.
And they've just fallen off the face of the earth, too. But that's what they're trying. So this is going to be a weird one. But whenever we.
Oh, no, 90 days in jail. 90 days in jail. Huh.
Whenever we do solve this, it'll be, of course it was that. But I think his idea about, Amazon, Pizza Hut, people like that testing something that we're not supposed to know yet. That someone's out there trying to figure out if this works. But it's
with this amount of national attention, you got to figure out. So I want to hear from our listeners. What do you think's happening here? Are we in the midst of an alien invasion? Is there an Iranian mothership? Are these some good old boys? I would still like to point out, and I believe fully that if this was happening over Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Montana, or Wyoming, we'd all know what it is because they would be shot down. Easily shot down by the folks in those red states because they're not going to put up with this. And then we'd all know. But you take away people's guns, you end up with drones. All right, we'll get to the phones here in just a second. Give us a call. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line. Those text messages coming right in here to the studio, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina
Trouble
Owayo
up
in
north
Dallas,
this
and here
morning,
are your
crash
top
back
stories.
into 525, north on
Wanted
I-25 up
posters
past
showing the
North
name and
Parkway,
picture of
2 left
United
lanes
Healthcare
blocked off, 2
CEO
right
Brian
lanes open.
Thompson and
Traffic
other
jam
top-level
solid. That's
executives
north on
have been
25
spotted
back
in
to
New York
84th
City.
Avenue. It's well over
Videos are being
20
shared
minute
on
delay.
social media
And we need
showing
some
the
side roads to
posters,
get around
and some
this.
of the signs show a big red X over Thompson's face, indicating that he has already been taken care of. Other posters featured the pictures and information of Optum CEO Heather Cianfrocco and United. At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Wanted posters showing the name and picture of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and other top-level executives have been spotted in New York City. Videos are being shared on social media showing the posters, and some of the signs show a big red X over Thompson's face, indicating that he has already been taken care of. Other posters featured the pictures and information of Optum CEO Heather Cianfrocco and United Health CEO Andrew Whitty. On the posters, a warning that, quote, healthcare CEOs should not feel safe and include the phrase deny, defend, depose, the words found on the bullets that were used to kill Brian Thompson last week. According to sources, the hit lists are being used as a way to instill fear and incite hysteria. Most of the posters have reportedly been taken down. Former U.S. Representative Anthony Weiner has filed to run for a seat on the New York City Council, launching a potential political comeback after his once promising career was destroyed by sexting scandals and a criminal conviction for having illicit online contact with a 15-year-old girl. In an interview, Weiner said he is, quote, still exploring whether to campaign for the office, but said he opened a campaign committee last week so he could participate in a forum held by the Downtown Independent Democrats this week. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
go to the phone lines. Joe Arvada, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Well, hi, Jeff. Actually, I was calling about the immigration thing, but let me comment on this because I am a Persian American. I was born here in the United States, but my father was an Iranian Persian who came on a student visa
And there's a magic rug joke in there I'm not going to make, but I'm just personal.
Well, actually, the joke that I had, I found it kind of offensive that you would say the Iranian mothership because wouldn't the Iranian mothers try to get the drones to take them out of Iran?
That is really, really good. That has no right to be as silly and frivolous and funny as that actually is. That is fantastic.
Well, what's interesting is that I am an American-born citizen, but I am not a natural-born citizen because my father was still Iranian at the time of my birth, Barack Obama. Anyway, just saying, the point is that whole story is a mess. Everybody's not saying what they know about the drones. So, until we know more, we can just speculate. I think the deep state knows exactly what it is. They just won't tell us.
Do you remember early on with the Chinese balloon too that Biden kept trying to downplay it? Like,
it's no big deal.
It's no big deal. It's all that it didn't have any of the
spying on us again, and they're slipping me an extra $1 billion to the big guy.
Exactly. I know.
Anyway.
They tried to say there's no spy equipment on it. That all was found out to be wrong. There was spying taking place of Americans on it. So I don't trust the government.
Don't I get an extra 10% for the balloon? Anyway,
that's a good one. Joe, always a great call. Great to hear from you. Thank you so much. Joe's line will be open.
Thank you.
303-696-1971. Oh, this is going to be a good one. What does Dwayne and Divide have to say? Good morning, Dwayne. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. And to reiterate about the Iranian Navy, the corrugated tin and camel dung certainly do make for easy flotation devices to bring those kind of things to our country. The drones are known by the FAA. You have to buy a license to fly a drone. So they know what's going on. It's probably some infrared item they're trying to do or some sort of redeveloping of all the area, just capturing it at night. They could be looking for cannabis farms or something of that nature. And if it's over 4 pounds, the FAA demands a $5 ticket to sit there and fly your drone. And they know who it is up there at all times.
Yeah,
what do you think about the idea they're telling us they don't?
Well, gee, Bill, I'm shocked that the government wouldn't be completely honest with us at all times. I mean, I believe in dragons and redheads who are going to be nice to me, and that the world is filled with gumdrops and happiness, and that you two guys are going to enjoy your extra Christmas gifts, especially that apron I heard about earlier today. I'm
awesome.
shocked.
Now, what about the lawmaker that says, well, he knows that it's the Iranian mothership? And as Joe from Arvada points out, we don't know why all the Iranian mothers are trying to get here through drones, but still, what about that? He says he knows this for certain. And is the FAA hiding the Iranian mothership? What's your idea on that one?
Well, I agree with Joe about the fact they'd be bringing the mothers and the kids. So I have to sit there and say the following is that we all have belief systems. Some of us like Star Wars. Some of us like Star Trek, and we all know that Star Trek is better. Other than that, I have to sit there and say people are allowed.
Dwayne, I've got to ask you, if this was happening over Montana, Wyoming, Texas, Alabama, do you think it would be as big of an issue? You think we would have solved this night one?
Well, I happen to have a Barrett 50 cal, and while the rounds are expensive, if I had one hovering over the house, after I put up a sign that says you can go on, if it doesn't leave, I promise you there would be one very loud round in the neighborhood, and I'd find out who owns it.
No,
I mean, that's just me though.
To your point, I want the person flying the drone over my property to have to come onto my property and get it back because I shot it down.
Well, there is that, but I mean, with new 8K cameras and everything, the advanced rounds of drones are super. There's one now that's an 8-rotor. It's about 5 feet across, 8K. They use it for movies and things like that. And it's only, $13,000, which in movie parlance is fairly inexpensive. I mean, I built one with the kid. We just got a big lighter, put an engine on top, and we put a camera underneath it, and we can fly around for about an hour on the glider and do drone footage and stuff. But I had to report it to the FAA because it was over 5 pounds. It's not hard to make one.
Oh, that's an important point too, and you see them all the time at my kids' football games now. Pretty much both teams at every game we've been to has had some dad with a drone operator. Now they have to show the referees a license before they're allowed to fly it during the game. But pretty much every sports team is getting little drones these days.
Yeah, if you see somebody in a red flannel shirt and a red flannel cap and calling himself Floyd R. Turbo, that's probably not somebody you want to fly the drone anyway.
That's good.
Dwayne, always
Thanks, Dwayne.
a good time. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate Dwayne from Divide. His line will be open. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to Brian Arvada. Good morning, Brian. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm pretty sure the government knows what this is. We bought a drone for our company a couple years ago. It's only like maybe 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. I thought it was a drone, big, kind of came in a big suitcase type thing. And we had to register it, and we have to register it every single year or be fined. And if we're flying it over someone's house and they call the authorities, it's a pretty hefty fine. But it's kind of like a cell phone. They know where it is, who it's registered to. So something larger than 1.5 by 1.5 foot, that's got to be registered with somebody somewhere in the government, and they know exactly what it is. And always when they won't tell you what it is, that's always a red flag.
Yeah,
we know that.
Brian, I would agree with you that people out there know and they're not being honest with us, only because I do have the feeling that if they didn't know what they were flying over New Jersey, they wouldn't be flying anymore. They would shoot them down. They would go after it, because that was the first thought when they talked about the Chinese balloon. And they said, no, don't shoot it down because of where it might land, some other stuff. But if it really was something they were totally unsure of, something the size of a car, they're talking about 6 feet across, was flying over the continental United States, that thing wouldn't be flying very long. I agree with you. There is somebody inside of government that does know exactly what these things are and what they are doing, but they have decided that at this point in time, us, the peons, don't need to know.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. So it's a red flag. If this was flying anywhere near, Nancy Pelosi's house, or, somebody of prominence, the White House right now, they'd be shot down, they'd be taken down, and we'd know exactly who and what it was.
Yeah, but
the
since
fact it's in Jersey.
Oh yeah, since it's near Christie's
cares?
house, they're like, who cares? What's he gonna do? Close a highway?
Right, but we need to know. I mean, we need to know, because a drone as big as a car flying around.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to know. It could carry something pretty heavy, and I'm thinking anything nefarious could be carried on something that big.
I mean, have you 2 points on this? One, there's that movie with Morgan Freeman, Olympus Is Down, or something like that, where he's the president of the United States. He's attacked with all these drones, and they just fly in, and they're little explosive drones. And then that's the fiction side. Dude, the nonfiction side is watching these battle videos in Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
where they don't even fly, they don't even shoot at each other anymore. They fly these little explosive drones right into the troop.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
That's how Ukraine has been able to cripple some of the armor and air power of Russia as well, because there have been videos of where they've flown an explosive drone into the place where they're repairing the helicopters, and they just explode it, and there go 3 helicopters that are not going to be repaired anytime soon.
And I went back and watched the new Top Gun, and in that movie, it was like the drone guy, right, which is Ed versus Tom Cruise, who's the real pilot. But dude, the entire future of our military is going to be drones. There's no way they're going to continue to put people's lives at risk when you can fight battles with little explosive drones.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, yeah, the military value in those drones. My brother-in-law works for Lockheed Martin, and he's in the drone division, very low level. Had to have clearance though. had to go through a whole background check to have clearance where they go back your entire life, basically, and interview everyone you ever knew, ex-wife and all. And so he said these things have so much military capability that, yeah, it's the future for us. That's why if we don't know what's going on around us, that's what makes it scary for me, whether it's ours, someone else's, or somebody in the private industry. It creeps me out. We need answers.
Brian, great call. Really appreciate it. Brian,
Yeah.
his line will be open 303-696-1971, or join us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115.
Yeah. Now, Brian was just talking to us a minute ago about the technology that his brother-in-law is working with Lockheed Martin and the crazy things they're doing with drones. I want to talk to you about a company that's doing some amazing things with technology right here in Denver, and they can help make your life better. It's my friends at Balance Well Space. Like how I did that segue there? That was kind of around the barn, but still.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Now, see, Balance Well Space does things differently because it's integrative medicine. They've taken a whole bunch of medical technology and put it under one roof so they can take care of all the stuff that is hurting you in one stop. That's the difference from your medical care right now. What does integrative medicine means? It means you can get chiropractic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, neuropathic care, trigger point injections, and regenerative care all under one roof. One stop, one visit, and they take care of it all. But the real difference is the fact that they reevaluate you every couple of weeks. They come back and talk to you, look at where you're doing, do some tests, and then tweak what they're doing to make sure you get to your goals. Your current medical team is in a whole bunch of different offices across the city. They're never getting together and discussing how their treatments are working together to make you the best possible person you can be, to get you back to doing those things you're no longer doing. Imagine putting your doctors into a rowboat and they all start rowing in a different direction. It's kind of what they're doing right now. But I got a team that's all going to row in the right direction to make sure you feel better. Balance Well Space. BalanceWellSpace.com. Talk to Dr. Julie, talk to Dr. Jess, schedule your personal evaluation, and find out what they can do for you. Me, they've taken away my back pain that was a constant in my life. I've got a broken shoulder that's an absolute mess, and the shoulder feels fantastic. The crazy thing right now, we're talking, I'm regenerating the meniscus in my left knee. My left knee feels wonderful. My right knee's been giving me problems, and the people at Balance Well Space are helping me straighten that one out as well. They've got new offices right in Lowry, plenty of parking right across from Hangar 2. Easy to find, easy to get to, and they are a fantastic medical team that is committed to making sure you get back to doing the things you haven't done in years. Think about what you're doing 10, 15 years ago that you're not doing now. They can make it happen. But you have to make it happen first by reaching out to them. BalanceWellSpace.com, BalanceWellSpace.com. Talk to the team that has made such a difference in my life. Let them make a difference in yours. BalanceWellSpace.com. And when you talk to them, tell me you heard about them here on Jeff and Bill Show.
That's great to hear, Bill. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking New Jersey drones. What is this all about? Are they space aliens visiting? Are they parts of the Iranian Navy mothership launching them off the coast? They're just a bunch of good old boys flying around and messing with people. Love to get your thoughts on this. Give us a call 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Capital Law text line 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone line. Mike Lakewood. Good morning, Mike. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Morning.
Morning. One thing, I'm a part one of drone flight. Wow. We fly a large hybrid drone for my company. It's 6 foot across, 8 motors on it. And it can stay up because it's gas powered. It'll stay up for 5 hours.
Wow.
So that's the type of drone that you're probably seeing. It's got to be gas powered, or I've seen one that's hydrogen powered, things like that. They're top end drones. They're 5-figure drones. But one of the things that I noticed is all the photos show it with flashing lights. Now, everybody sees those flashing lights. They're regulated by the FAA. You have to have it if flying at night. If I'm doing anything clandestine, I would shut them off.
Oh, that's a great point.
I would, I'd shut them off. I'd put black tape over it if you're not that sophisticated. But, like our drone, we can shut them off. So, that I look at that, somebody's doing some sort of night survey because they don't want to fall out of certification. Now, they're also supposed to have a Bluetooth tag on it. And that tag is supposed to be able to locate you. It's a finder. It was just passed recently where you have to, all these drones have to have it where it's kind of like it's a tracker similar to what they have on airplanes. So the airplanes can now track the drones. And there's a free app and you could follow them. So, somebody should be looking at that. It should be broadcasting, but it's, I know the FAA started the certification and they said, okay, everybody's got to have one. I know some people still don't have them, but
no, Mike, I would have thought that if this was a business doing some surveying or something like that, they would want to be very transparent, very clear up front. I mean, as a business, you don't want the massive headaches of investigations and notoriety and where you're violating the law and all that. So you just come out and go, yeah, we're surveying stuff. Why does it seem like they're not doing that?
That's a strange thing. They're following some of the law, but not following other parts of it. So like,
great point.
You're supposed to notify anybody you're flying over, and it looks like they're not notifying anybody they're flying over, which is a violation of FAA regulations. So you've got that. So they're not following the rules, but they've got the flashing lights. I mean, our drone actually didn't come with flashing lights, so we couldn't fly it at night. So I was able to craft up. My son actually 3D printed little tiny mounts for them, and we're able to put lights on it. And so, looking at that, they're doing a survey somewhere, and they're keeping it pretty low. And any of those octocopters or ones that have blades like that, you could take them down with a shotgun, pretty easily. We've had ours taken down by we think it was a bird. Little bird hit one thing, and those things just come tumbling down. So it's I think it's a lot of hype. Though one thing I do have to say, ours, the one we have, that it's a U.S. made drone. We could fly it. It says 60 miles.
Really?
From the base, as long as it's line of sight. Now, FAA regulations restrict me from flying it over 400 feet and beyond the line of sight. So I have to keep eyes on it and be able to tell its orientation, which limits us to about 1,000 meters of flight.
Now, Mike, got a question with the under 400 feet, because the reporting that I've seen, again, I don't know anything about it, says that these drones in Jersey are over 500 feet in the air. What is your reaction to that? How do you interpret that, given your experience?
I don't know how they did that math, because we put a drone up in the air, and we use our software that it comes within it, and it tells how far it is above AGL, above the ground level. Someone estimating 500 feet in the air that's kind of odd thing to estimate. I can't estimate something that's 500 feet in the air versus
and what I was
400
guessing, and what I'm guessing is based on, you know, if there was reporting or someone coming out, and again, I haven't dove that deeply into it, would be someone with some knowledge or ability to find out, you know, FAA connections or something would figure out, oh, it's running at about this height. And once they were telling everybody, you're like, oh, wait a minute. But if you knew how high it was flying, wouldn't you know what it was? I mean, there's some really big questions here.
Yeah. There are some odd questions of coming out.
Now,
and
Mike,
they're all kind of blurry pictures.
With
too.
a giant 6-foot across drone, I know you're doing some survey and some other stuff with it. What are some of the other applications that you think that we could use drones this size for? What do you think we could do with them that could actually be productive and maybe, you know, consumer applications?
Like what we use it for, I work for a mineral exploration company. And so we use it for magnetic surveys. We fly over areas that are covered with soil, and then we're able to use this magnetic sensor to tell differences in the rock types under it. That's what we use it for. Other people use it for, there's a lot of agriculture uses for it where they could tell crop stress, other things like that. They usually do it during the day because they use the sunlight as a reflector for infrared, and they can tell a lot about that. They use it for topographic surveys, high resolution topographic surveys, other things like that.
Wow, that's
crazy.
Mike, that
thank
is
you.
very helpful,
Thanks
man.
a
We
lot,
have
man.
incredible
That's so
listeners.
smart. That's
Thank you for
amazing.
taking
Thank
time to
you.
call us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Did Mike just say he's flying like a giant metal detector?
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Let's get to work. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice, Divisi's voice, Lakewood's voice, Arvada's voice, Sterling's voice. We've gotten all those calls just today. It's what we love about this show. The entire city and metro region of Denver joining in on the conversation on Denver's top talk radio show, the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Caitlin Clark named the Athlete of the Year, according to Time. But that's not what's making the news. It's one paragraph where she talks about her white privilege. Is Caitlin Clark successful in the WNBA because she's white? Or is Caitlin Clark given into the woke mindset and parodying some of these talking points about white privilege? Want to hear from you. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. If I only knew a sports guy. Blake Olson, checking in with him on news and comment. Blake, is Caitlin Clark successful because of her white privilege?
No, absolutely not. She took a knee. She bended down. She was bullied, and I'm not going to watch her play until she forgets all this stuff and just starts playing basketball and doesn't fold and succumb to the pressure. No one cares about the WNBA until she started playing in it. I mean, yeah, it's great that there's a WNBA. It's a charity, by the way. The NBA funds it. And these guys need to pump the brakes, the players and the coaches and everyone who's involved, talking about the history of the WNBA. Get over yourselves. It's great that there's women's basketball, but Caitlin Clark doesn't have to apologize to anyone. She's a phenomenal player. She's fun to watch, and she changed the game for the better for them. And the business.
Blake, I got one word for you. Marketability.
That's
what
right.
it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Michael Jordan was not the greatest NBA player of all time simply because he was black.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
There was no black privilege that made him the greatest NBA player of all time. It was his skill set. He was fun to watch. He connected. Trendsetter. He connected with the audience. Nike poured.
He was likable, like you said.
Likable.
Yes, likable.
Yes, it's all about marketability. If you watch that movie about Nike and how they got the Air Jordans, did you ever watch that with Ben Affleck? And those guys? Yes. Right? Fun film to watch.
Great film.
They recognized the opportunity with Michael Jordan. They went all in. They sacrificed all they could to try to land him. They did. It became the biggest selling shoe of all time. Yeah. It totally changed the direction of Nike. Had nothing to do with Michael Jordan's race.
Absolutely.
Had nothing to do. It had simply to do with his talent, his likability, his marketability to broad audiences. Caitlin Clark had the same thing. She's not succeeding simply because she's white. It's crazy.
Right. And a lot of these players want to act like they're Jackie Robinson. They're not. Okay. They've had a great opportunity to play the game they love and make decent money.
Yes.
In empty arenas.
Stuff we're never going to see.
Right.
Ever.
Exactly. And if you want to be honest about it, I mean, one reason she's likable is she has a boyfriend and she has traditional values.
Yeah.
Okay. And that doesn't mean that, we're going to you're going to hold it against players who aren't heterosexuals, but that's the fact. I mean, she has traditional values. She's a great player.
Megan Rapone,
and people want to see that.
I think is her name, right?
Yeah, whatever.
From the soccer.
Yeah, that's another
right.
one.
Like that was the reason people didn't like her. Is every time she talked, it was like, I'm criticizing. And there's all these problems, and you're part of the problem, and all that.
Right.
And people
Get
didn't want to
over
hear
yourself.
it. They
You're
didn't want
a
to hear it.
female soccer player. Jeez. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you're likable, then that's a whole different thing. You're great at what you do. It's great that we want female sports. We want women's sports. But quit crying and complaining. You have a great opportunity to play the game you love, make really good money, and here she comes along and helps them get chartered flights and chartered buses, and brings attention to the game. And she's ruining it. Just total ruining of her reputation and her opportunities.
Yep.
And it ticks me off. So you're going to talk about this.
Oh, we're
this hour,
diving.
right?
We're doing a whole hour.
Yes,
on this.
I love it.
And this
I'm not going to watch her until she says, you know what, that's a bunch of garbage. Because that's why we like sports. Because
Right.
it doesn't matter if you're white, black, mixed with white and black, or Hispanic or Asian. It doesn't matter. If you can play, you can play. It doesn't
That's
matter.
right.
It's just all
I mean,
about
look
the
at
performance on the
what's
court.
Hotani? Is that his name from the
Yeah,
Dodgers?
Shohei, yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah,
Gr-
exactly.
On track record to become one of the greatest baseball, if
Mhm.
not the greatest baseball player ever.
He should have been the athlete of the year, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that's
but
a good point. That's a good point.
I could, at the same time, I could see why she was named it, but to go woke on that thing, it's sad, man. It really
I'm
is.
interested to see if Bill has a different opinion, especially being an
Okay.
athlete himself. So we'll get into that in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, he has the soccer take. I have the take of, look, you're playing basketball. It didn't matter if you were Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. You were either good or you weren't. You're good enough to play in the NBA, or you're not good enough to play in the NBA. Has nothing to do with white or black or all that garbage. It's stupid. All right, 23 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 49 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, DJT is reported to have invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to his inauguration. Laura Westbrook.
If his offer is accepted, it would be unprecedented. No Chinese leader has ever attended a U.S. presidential inauguration. Indeed, no foreign leaders have attended one in more than a century.
CBS News cites multiple sources who also say officials are making plans for other foreign dignitaries to attend the January 20th swearing-in ceremony. It's not clear whether Xi intends to. 47 vowed to slap a 60% tariff on goods entering the U.S. from China.
Last month, he vowed to impose an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods unless Beijing does more to stop the flow of the drug fentanyl.
Support is growing for DJT's plans for mass deportation. Senator Ted Cruz says that more than 650 convicted criminals are on ICE's non-detained docket, meaning they are not locked up by the agency while they await immigration proceedings.
And of those 650,000, 14,944 have been convicted of homicide.
Cruz used the Capitol Hill hearing to blast Democrats who want amnesty for those who crossed the border illegally and have been living in the country for years.
What rational world says America's better off with more criminals? What resident of what blue state says, you know what, America's better off with 20,000 rapists being released into this country?
Time Magazine's editor-in-chief on the Today Show.
The person of the year who, for better or for worse, had the most influence on the news in 2024 is Donald Trump.
Yeah, DJT named its person of the year, Time Magazine. He was selected for what the magazine called a comeback of historic proportions. The magazine added, Trump is once again at the center of the world and in as strong a position as he has ever been.
This looks like a job for me, so everybody
Yes.
just follow me, 'cause we need little
Can't get enough. person of the year. Love it. And he rang the stock exchange bell this morning. About 1,500 people are having their sentences commuted by a corrupt Joe. Another 39 convicted of nonviolent crimes are being pardoned. The White House says today's announcement is the single largest one-day act of clemency in modern history. Yes, it is. New York police are linking evidence from the scene of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's murder to suspect Luigi Mangione. New York PD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said Wednesday that the ghost gun allegedly found with Mangione when he was arrested in Pennsylvania was matched to 3 shell casings recovered from the crime scene in Manhattan. Tisch also says fingerprints found in the area have been matched to Mangione. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said that the proposed grocery store merger being called off is a win for the state. Albertsons announced that it was calling off the $25 billion merger with Kroger after a judge blocked the deal a day earlier. Weiser, who took legal action to stop the merger, said it would have harmed competition and remedies that were offered were insufficient to protect.
So glad he's going after those grocery store mergers after it took 192 cars being stolen from DIA for those guys to finally wake up and go do something about the cartel activity at our airport.
Yes, at the that's not a big deal.
Wait, did you guys see the breakup though between Kroger and Albertsons?
They're suing each other.
Yeah, they're suing each other. Yeah, they're suing each other. This didn't go through, so now I'm suing you. What a bunch of children.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And for a lot, too. I guess there's like breakup clauses in these deals.
Yep.
Yes, they're called prenups. And
They don't play. Those grocery store chains do not mess around. Some of music's biggest stars will be honored at tonight's Billboard Music Awards. Zach Bryan, Taylor Swift, Morgan Wallen, and Sabrina Carpenter head into the music's big night with the most nominations. I like to call them the Billy Awards because nobody knows music and artists like Billy Thorpe. So let's call them the Billy Awards.
I like that. Yeah. Everybody can get a Billy.
Yeah, get a Billy.
I like that.
and then put an apron on the trophy.
Exactly.
With your face on it.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
You know?
One of my prized possessions is a hat from the Billie Eilish World Tour 2022.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because on the top of the hat it says Billy.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, granted, it's the female spelling, but I don't give a damn.
Oh,
I
she
don't
spells
care.
it. She spells the I.
Yeah, she does IE, and I do
Okay.
not care. The fact that I have a hat, it's another performer that has my name on the top. I'm wearing that
love
thing
it,
as much as I
man.
can, man.
Yeah, we can find a hat with the correct spelling though, Billy. Come on.
It's almost less fun though.
No, you're right. That's a good point. 23 in Firestone, 22 in Larkspur, 25 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Partly cloudy skies and fair temperatures are going to be upper 40s and low 50s in Denver today. Mid to upper 40s, a little bit more in the way of cloudiness tomorrow. 20s Friday night. The weekend starts off with not much going on. Denver will be in the low to mid 50s Saturday and Sunday. Sunday night, Monday morning, a few snow showers. Monday, a little bit colder. Another front arrives late Tuesday night and Wednesday, bringing some clouds, colder temperatures, and a few snow showers. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Text messages already blowing up on this, especially with you, Billy.
I bet.
Soccer isn't even a real sport.
It is. It's the word. It is the beautiful game. It is the most dominant sport on the planet. You think a lot of people watch the Super Bowl? There's this thing called the World Cup that just crushes the people that watch the Super Bowl. NFL, NBA, baseball would love.
I'll tell you what
to have
drives
the
me
system
crazy
that
about
soccer
watching
has.
soccer, because I've been to a few Rapids games.
Yeah.
And I understand the jovial atmosphere, right? I mean, it's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
giant party in the stands
Yes.
the whole time. Yet they sit there and bang drums the entire game. The entire game.
Yeah, that has to do with who is it? It's something 5 is who they are. It's this group of supporters. I was.
I
a
don't
member of
mind
them
when
for
you
a while.
score.
Yeah.
All that. I don't want to listen to 90 minutes of drum
Well,
banging.
the thing is, for me, it should be. And I've been out to the Rapids games as well. And to me, the people in charge of the drum there, it is a little too constant because it doesn't create the moment that it could. It's supposed to, get you in kind of the spirit, and it's supposed to engage you in what's going on the field. Here's the idea. When you are at the game, how often do you necessarily pay attention to the cheerleaders? If you're in an NFL game or you're in an NBA game, you don't really.
No.
There are those breaks that they come out in the court and they dance the NBA games, and then the same thing with the TV timeouts.
Yep.
And that's really in somewhat what the supporter is doing. They need to be able to engage, and I think the drum should be
There's no
used at
time
certain
for
times.
90 minutes. It's just kind of, I mean, that's one of
it's fantastic. No, that's one of the best things in the world that it runs for 90 because you know how long the game is going to last. You have a set time, and there's all it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the problem that Americans need to get over is we need to be more comfortable singing in public. Because if you really get down to where those drums really fit in, it has to do with the singing and the chants. That's what needs to happen inside the stadium. They played, who was it yesterday? Oh, it was AC Milan playing in Dinamo Zagreb, I believe. And they had someone inside the stadium that is chanting the entire time, has his own megaphone. You can hear him, but he's engaging the crowd and he's getting the crowd to sing and chant along with him. That's what the drums need to be doing. The fact that they haven't been able to engage the rest of the stadium is a real problem. If I was in charge of that supporter group, I would go to the Rapids, and one of the things I would do is I would create a chant or a songbook that I would print and I would hand out as you're walking into the stadium and
Good
say,
idea.
this is what we're going to do. But they haven't reached out that way. But that's on a side note.
All right, so we're talking about Caitlin Clark. She's the Time Magazine Athlete of the Year, which a lot of people would go, well, that's great. That's good. But that's not what the news is. There's one paragraph about halfway through that says this. Clark is cognizant. I don't even know how to say it. Cognizant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Publicly educated. Clark is cognizant of the racial underpinnings of her stardom. She says, I want to say I've earned every single thing. But as a white person, there is privilege, says Clark. She goes on, a lot of these players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing, she says. Now, is Caitlin Clark being honest about the history of the WNBA, or is she bowing a knee to the woke mob? What do you think? Love to have you join the conversation. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Are you disappointed that Caitlin Clark is bowing a knee to the woke mob, or is she being honest that she has benefited as a white person from white privilege? Billy, what do you think?
I can see her point as far as the privilege side. And I think that she does have a case for it, given the background and the history of some other people in the league. And just doing some basic research, Caitlin went to a private Catholic school inside of Iowa that I think that's the tuition is normally less if you're a parish member, but it's going to run about $15,000 a year. That's a privilege to be able to afford $15,000 a year, to be in a family that can drop $15,000 on your education in addition to paying the
What does
taxes.
that have to do with her skin color?
No, that's the privilege. And that's what I'm talking about. When we talk about white privilege, I'm just talking about the privilege she has had.
Okay.
And she has privilege because she's had opportunities that other people haven't had. And if we look at the idea of wealth inside this country, wealth is concentrated more in the people with less melanin than the people with more melanin. So there is a level of privilege there. There is an access level that she gets because of her skin color. And one of the examples I'll bring is talking to the godfather of Denver radio, Peter Boyles, and talking about white privilege and talking about his time in the steel mills in Pittsburgh. And he talked about the idea that, listen, I'm a poor kid. I got nothing. I barely have shoes, and I'm working my butt off in the steel mill. How's that a white privilege? And then he comes to the realization, oh, the black guys that I'm working with in the steel mill can't join the union. They aren't allowed. So all the benefits that the white workers get, the black workers don't get. That is an inherent white privilege by someone who grew up with the poorest of the poor and is working in a steel mill at the time. And that's some of the example. The idea that Caitlin had the opportunity to go to a private Catholic school that seems to have a fairly good women's basketball program is a privilege that could not have been accessed by other people inside the NBA. And so that's part of the privilege that is inherent in this. And there's part of the media coverage that also is inherent in what she is doing. Now, she has earned a lot of her flowers. I will be more than happy to hand her the giant bouquets of flowers because she is probably the best shooting female basketball player that we've ever had in America. I can't say worldwide. I don't think they play a lot worldwide, so I don't have any perspective. But on American players, as far as female shooters, she's the best.
But do you think that there's a systemic effort to keep black players down inside the WNBA?
Now, I disagree with the idea of effort. I think there's some things that just happen because of what the WNBA is. And part of that is also what Blake brought up. As far as it's a charity, they can't make money off of it. And so that's part of it. And Caitlin has brought a lot of attention, and she was given a lot more attention and a lot more access, in part because of who she is, but also in part of her background and her skin color. And we didn't see, there have been some phenomenal WNBA athletes that have played, one of the first women to ever dunk a basketball, but she wasn't brought up on stage to present awards as much. She wasn't featured in magazines. She didn't have these type of attention.
And you attribute that to race?
In part, yeah. I think in part,
really?
Yeah, I do. Because in part, what we're looking at is the larger, how to put this? Okay, demographically, this is a right now majority white nation. It's changing, but you are looking for people that are reflective of your experience and what you look like. And I often refer to Whoopi Goldberg talking about Uhura in the original Star Trek, and Whoopi being amazed that she saw a TV program where someone with the same color of her skin wasn't the help. It was the first time she ever saw that. And she tells the story of yelling at her mom, Mom, come see what she's doing. Come see what she's doing. Because the only images she had seen represented was the help. And so that's what I also think is part of it, is that mirror where unintentionally there is some media attention and other people that are fans because she looks more like they do. They can identify with who she is. And I think to her credit, though, she's been able to cross a lot of the racial boundaries. But yeah, I do think that there is an element of privilege inside of her experience.
If we're looking at it through that lens with regards to promotion, opportunities and stuff like that, how about just the makeup of the league itself? 60% of the WNBA is black. 70% of the NBA is black. If you were looking, if it was reversed, right, and you're going 60% of the WNBA is white, 70% of the NBA is white, well, then the argument would be made that it has white privilege in its makeup. But then when we look at the makeup of those institutions now that are predominantly black, you don't hear people going, well, there's black privilege there.
Well, that's a really, really good perspective. And the only thing I would use, at least at first, to push back on that is let's look at the NFL and let's look at the number of black players and the percentage they are in the league versus the number of black coaches and the percentage they are in the league.
And so my point being, we use it as an example. We go, look, there's white privilege because the percentages don't match up. And what I'm pointing out is that with both the WNBA and the NBA, they're predominantly, by big measures, made up of black people, but we don't say that there's black privilege.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that, because is it just the numbers of people?
Well, I'm pointing out, like you're in your example, whenever there's a white disparity, we go, look, white privilege. There's more white coaches than there are white players in the NFL. ergo white privilege. But then when you flip the numbers and you go, well, here's examples of where you have higher numbers of black players, like in the NFL or in the WNBA or NBA, we don't use it as an example of there being black privilege.
Well, because it doesn't fit systemically through the entire league as far as black privilege. And what I mean by that are coaches, owners, executives aren't reflective of the players on the bottom. And if we had the NFL or the NBA that was largely white and everybody above them was a minority, you wouldn't say that playing in the NBA or getting a career there would necessarily be a privilege based on the color of your skin because of the structure that exists above you. And what that means is the people that are there doing the base level work that are playing, for 5-10 years versus a coach that can go 10, 15, 20, 25 years. That's different. That's a different level of access. I mean, you have a rule inside the NFL that they have to interview a minority candidate because it has been so much of a disparity. And that's where it comes down to, because part of the other reason that there is a privilege inside of it, and it's inherent, is that most people will hire someone that looks like they do, that will have similar background experiences. That's why connections through universities are so strong. Because if I went to CU and I know you went to CU, we now have a commonality. We have a bond. You're like me.
So do you think Prime hires black players because they look like him?
What do you mean hires? Like,
you just said people are likely to hire somebody because they look like them.
Yeah,
so
do you mean by his staff? Yeah.
Do you think that his staff and the players, do you think Prime is being racist and hiring people that look like him or to either play or be on his staff?
I think he's hiring people based on common shared experiences that are like him. And that would be like Warren Sapp, someone that is a former NFL player that has that experience. And he's not going out there and he didn't hire Moose, Jim Johnston. He didn't hire him. And so that it's somewhat of a reflection. Yes. And it is natural. And again, we all have that inside of us psychologically. And that's part of something that we should recognize.
Should there be efforts then against Deion Sanders and quotas saying you've got to hire a certain amount of white people, or you've got to at least interview a certain amount of white people? I don't care. Look, I've seen him play. It was what a privilege, right? Yeah, the staff looked predominantly black. They're winning. I don't care. They're doing a great job. Look at the amount of revenue they've brought to CU, the impact they're having, the great players they're having. I don't care if Deion Sanders, I don't want to force quotas upon Deion Sanders that are arbitrary based upon race. I want him to hire the very best he thinks can help him win, and you just judge him on it.
But winning is a salve. And so
winning is a what?
A salve. It's basically it's a cream that makes everything better. And so that's the idea, is that winning makes a lot better. There may be a whole heck of a lot more critique about who he's hiring and who he's surrounding himself with if the program was failing. And there may be some questions.
Race. I wouldn't.
It sure could be. It sure could be. The idea, and the idea would be is not hiring the right people.
Right. I just want a meritocracy. I just want the very best. I don't care. Look, if Harvard is just full of Asian kids, I don't care. I actually think that America would be better served that way if you had all the really smart kids together learning. But we then come up with these arbitrary racial rules that somehow if Deion Sanders has all black staff or Harvard's all of a sudden full of Asian kids, that somehow there's racism happening there.
Well,
I don't think there's racism happening.
Well, understand the people that push back against most about the idea of that, as far as especially Ivy League schools, are the people that are the legacy students. Those are the people that are the real privileged students inside of. If you're talking about affirmative action and people that have a privilege, it's the legacies. It's the people that.
But I want to stay focused on race here.
I know, but that's part of the conversation, because if you're siloing it as far as race, we're not acknowledging the other aspects of where privilege exists inside of our society. And what I mean by that, in the legacy side of it, is you want to focus on the race thing, but we have an example of something that is privileged, that is based on socioeconomic status and mostly concentrated in people that have lighter pigment in their skin. The people that benefit most from legacy.
So I agree with you. I agree with you that there's. I'm not saying that there's privilege that doesn't exist in this world. There's clearly privilege that exists, but then you pivot into race, and that's where I think we disagree. Is that pivot that because there's privilege, yes, but then yes, it concentrates it into white people or Asian people or Hispanic, whatever it might be, but then we say because that Ergo, there's racism. I think that's where I disagree.
Well, for me, I still remember the first time that I experienced direct racism, and it was with my cousin. And my cousin comes from a mixed family, and he's 6 months older than I am. And we're hanging out, and we're wandering through a store, and I realize we're being followed by store security as we're going through this department store. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And he goes, don't worry about it, it's me. I'm like, what? He goes, happens all the time. Happens all the time. And this is in the late 80s. And that was my first exposure to the fact that wandering around the store with a guy that did not look like me, that didn't look like the security guard, that didn't look like the staff there, raised red flags for everybody in that department. And now we were a risk simply because of the melanin in his skin.
We'd love to have you join the conversation. As you can hear in the background, phone lines are starting to light up. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115, 0459. White privilege is not the right phrase. It should be called white novelty, similar to the NFL when black quarterbacks started showing up.
That's an interesting.
I'm not sure I understand.
That's an interesting idea behind it, and I'll get to the phones here. We'll talk in a second.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea that because it is something new and different, because we haven't had a dominant white player inside of the WNBA, that she is the person that is outstanding, like the Otani. Otani's different because he comes from Japan and comes over here, and so he stands out a little bit more, just like Larry Bird did inside the NBA. Some of the most interesting conversation you can have is go back and listen to Larry Bird's contemporaries reflecting on it now and what they thought the first time they saw him, what they thought the first time they stepped on the court with him, and how there were all these all-stars that had grown up in a ecosystem of the white kids not being able to play. And now you come against this one kid who can really, really play. And not can he only play, he can probably kick your ass. And so what that means to them, and it was a novelty because he was so much different.
Interesting.
But yeah, and you had Pistol Pete Maravich and there are a few others, but the conversations with Bird are really interesting when you go back and you look at some of those guys.
Kathy from Aurora is asking for Mary in Wyoming to call in. If you listen to the show regularly, Mary's a regular caller. Kathy would love to hear. I would love to hear from Mary as well. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. We're talking Caitlin Clark, making a lot of news, not just because she's the athlete of the year, but saying that as a white person, there is absolutely privilege. The league does not do enough to elevate the black players in the WNBA. Is Caitlin Clark being honest about racism and white privilege within the WNBA, or is she bowing a knee to the woke mob? Come on. We got to stop fixating on race. The NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball have plenty of successful, marketable black players. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with likability. And Caitlin Clark just happens to be a very likable player. That's why she's getting the endorsements and the opportunities. Look at Michael Jordan. It didn't have anything to do about race. It had to do with skill set and likability. Give us a call. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The funeral for United Healthcare At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The funeral for United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was held in Minnesota on Monday. Police provided security at the funeral service for the father who was killed last week in Manhattan. More than a dozen state troopers and about 100 cars were all gathered outside. Security was tight as a drone was seen flying overhead and a sniper was in position on the roof of the church. No outsiders were allowed to attend. After a 5-day nationwide manhunt, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione was arrested and is being charged with his murder. The gun found on Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, matches shell casings found at the scene of the crime, according to New York's police commissioner. Commissioner Jessica Tisch also said lab results matched Mangione's fingerprints to a water bottle and protein bar wrapper found near the scene of the killing. Police are still trying to pin down a possible motive. However, writings found in Mangione's possession hint at a hatred of corporate greed, a capitalist society, and the healthcare industry. Mangione remains jailed in Pennsylvania as he fights extradition to New York. The New York Police Department's top detective, Joseph Kinney, said that prints were not found on the bullets that killed Thompson, but there was one fingerprint on a cell phone that was recovered. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Ohio, Salem News Channel.
to her, like the baseball of black players not only succeeding in those leagues, but having major endorsement deals, making tons of money. And our culture isn't racist. It just focuses in on sports skill set and likability. And Michael Jordan, for example, very likable, very successful in sports. And as a result, brands flock to him because he transcended all races, all that, and was just able to help these brands sell their products. So the reason that black women haven't been as successful in the WNBA is just they haven't hit those same things that Caitlin Clark did. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with skill set and likability and general marketability. What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to William Littleton. Good morning, William. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Caitlin Clark, but maybe on a deeper, broader level. There's been a lot of research done about delved into genetics and why men seek certain sexual partners, as do women, you know what I mean? And we think it's on a conscious level, but it's not. There's other things. And then you talk about Kahneman's thinking fast, thinking slow, the book Free Will, a bunch. But the point about it is what they've discovered, and I think it's accepted scientifically, is that a lot happens before those decisions reach our conscious mind. And a lot of that research is, they show pictures of this and show pictures of women and show pictures of people racial and ask people and it's inevitable that people of one race see people of another race in a slightly different way as to what they can affect, etc. And so what I say about myself, for example, is that on a conscious level, I do not consider myself to be a racist. But on an unconscious level, I recognize that when I see people different than me, that I have this little visceral reaction that I don't know where it comes from. And as long as that reaction is filtered to my conscious brain, then I don't act like a racist. But I think this conversation about systemic racism recognizes that fact and how those prejudices get built into institutions like the economy, like higher ed, maybe even sports.
So, William, do you implement ratios that need to be met? So, for instance, if Deion Sanders, black head coach, hires predominantly black staff and black players for his team, is he being unconsciously racist? And therefore, the University of Colorado needs to step in and create ratios that he has to meet based upon race.
Specific examples, then you can stamp around the debate and not make any difference. I'm talking more on a macro level. So here's the thing. I mean, what do we do when we free black slaves and then give them no method to attach to the economy and have them live under Jim Crow laws? And so what came up with that is affirmative action. In other words, give them an unearned advantage in certain situations so that they can get a toehold. And so, my grandma used to say, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but I think there are times when you have to bend the tree farther to the right if you want it to stand upright. And so,
William,
these are things that we've dealt with for decades here.
I appreciate
That's
the
a great
call. William
perspective.
from Littleton, thanks so much.
Yeah,
William's
call us
line
again,
will be open, 303-696-1971. She's on the line. The people in the text messages asking for Mary from Wyoming to weigh in. She's on the line. We're going to get to her. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Here comes Mary.
the Jeff and Bill show. So Caitlin Clark named Athlete of the Year 2024, making news because she believes that part of her success is attributed to white privilege within the league. Is she right? Is there systemic racism that permeates the WNBA and she's emerged as a superstar because of her race? Or are there plenty of examples out there of Black athletes not only succeeding in these leagues, but getting major endorsement deals? And it has to do with likability in this country. That's more important. Lots of text messages asking for Mary from Wyoming to weigh in. Mary's on the line. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I don't know if I'm going to have the answer that people are looking for, but on a personal level, I think she's a classy woman for acknowledging the history of the women's league, and that it was predominantly Black women that participated, but she earned where she is from her skills. She should not have to apologize for being a skilled basketball player.
That's good.
What I struggle with is that the other parts that you're talking about, the systemic racism, immediately what came up to me is how our country has tried to respond to it. It was with affirmative action. Black people at that time had a choice. They could go with, like what many of and I'll say the majority did, they chose the government handout. They chose welfare. Welfare was easy to do. You didn't have to work for it. You didn't have to put any effort into it. You got a check, you got the money. If you took the affirmative action and decided to go to school, because we were prohibited from going to any colleges, that's why the Black colleges, Black universities are so important. That's how we got our education. And also the religious schools. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. They called it a finishing school, which was at that time where I had 4 years of Latin. That was the leg up that I had in the job market. And that I didn't speak Hispanics when I went for my interview. I spoke English because my parents, I was fortunate to come from a family with a father and a mother. And that made a difference. So I can say I had a leg up because I did have that private education. Now, that private education, I cleaned classrooms. I had to work. I was under scholarship. So I wasn't privileged. I mean, it was hard. I went to schools with a lot of the very rich, because it was that type of a school. And I had to chuckle because they have a reunion and they always want me to come. Those people hated me. They didn't treat me well.
No.
Why the hell, excuse me, why would I want to go back and visit with them?
I agree with you.
I'm
That's
sorry.
awful.
So
they didn't give me any privilege.
No, and they probably pointed you out because you were the person that was emptying the trash after school, that you were the person that was pushing the broom, and some of them probably figured, yeah, you're here with us, but there you are doing the job you actually deserve.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, but I chose the harder road. I was a single parent, and all I'm just saying, I chose the harder one, and that was work.
But Mary,
And
I
I
want to ask you about the WNBA though. So with every other sports league, you've had people of lots of different races elevate to the very top of those leagues, get major endorsements, all that stuff. Why do you think it was Caitlin Clark that was really the first one to emerge from the WNBA? Do you attribute it to race?
No, her skill. I mean, I enjoy watching someone who's skilled. In other words, no, it's her skill, and she should be happy that is what she was being rewarded for. Like I said, it was classy of her to mention that the history of what the Black players had put into it, because they did do the daily grind to bring it to get even the knowledge that when she came into it, it was a big deal. So all I'm just saying is that I'm with Blake on that. She should not. I have problems with that whole weight thing with and pronouns and all the rest of that. I have problems with reparations. I don't think you have history of whatever culture, the United States. This is our history. We can't keep going back and trying to change it.
Mary, I want you to know that people honor your perspective so much that they were texting and begging you to call in.
Yes.
That's how much they love you. I hope that starts your day off on the right foot.
Can I say one other thing? I'm going to end up. There's a book out there that I think you'd enjoy reading. Custard Died for Your Sins, an Indian Manifesto.
We'll check it out. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
KNUS. follow Mary from Wyoming.
Dude, did you see the text messages?
Yes. It's so cool.
Mary
Yes.
rocks. Mad love.
Oh, she's so good. I love her. And I would send her a text message afterwards, and I talked to her about how this is the reason that we love her is because of her openness, her honesty, but also she chose the harder road. How much respect do you have for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She is the type of people that we want, that we love having as part of our audience, and we love having you here with us. But again, she's a wonderful example, and that's why Mary is a very special part of our program.
Love you, Mary. Thanks
Love
so
ya.
much for calling in, and know that the audience was calling for you. It's like we were at a
Yes.
stadium and she hadn't taken the field yet.
Yes.
And the crowds were going, Mary,
Yes.
Mary,
And there,
Mary.
yes. And in international soccer, there are songs you will sing to the players that you enjoy and you have, and there's a thing about it that's yes. And that's what it was, is the fans, the Jeff and Bill show, were singing Mary's song. We
That's
appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you so much. Great conversation on Caitlin Clark, race, WNBA, all that stuff. I guarantee you not a single other show in Colorado had that conversation.
No, not the way we did.
So thank you to everyone that joined in on this. And I'm going to ask Bill next what he thinks about Carrie Lake taking over Voice of America.
Oh, boy.
This will be a fun one. Not going to miss this conversation. But first, news and comment. By the way, I didn't introduce the show.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Good
who are we?
morning. My name's Jeff Hunt, Bill Thorpe. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. We got a whole hour planned for you. Engaging conversations, critical thinking. Most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Fox has that congressman that said they were Iranian drones on again.
Jeez.
You say, no, Iran made a deal with China to buy drones, and these drones should be shot down.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
So because Iran made a deal with China to buy drones,
Maybe
they
the
showed up,
Chinese made drones.
but they showed up in Jersey.
But
I just-
Jersey's
yeah,
the
that's the
but
part
it's because no one will shoot them down. This is Texas; they'd be
Yeah.
shot down. Mary in Wyoming
Yeah.
would shoot down the
Yes, she
drone
would.
over
Yes,
her
she would.
place.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll get to all this and more. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Blake, Mary agree with you on that one. too.
Man, Mary is awesome. She deserves. You know what? She needs a walk-up song. You know, like the baseball
Walk up
players
song.
say.
How about some aprons with her picture on it?
Yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah,
The
don't
Mary
worry, man.
apron.
I think everyone in the KNUS listening audience would buy those. Absolutely. I'd buy one. Yeah, she is awesome. Can we take everything that Liz Cheney has benefited from Wyoming and give it all to Mary? Please.
That's a reparation I would support.
Yep, I'm right there with it. She is awesome. No, great job, guys. Great segment. 29 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 49 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story. DJT rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street this morning and says he wants the American worker to be invested in the economy. Trump told CNBC he wants American workers to wake up and love to go to work for a lot of money. I love that. Stocks have risen sharply since Trump was elected in November, in part on hopes of promised tax cuts and deregulation. 47 is reported to have invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to his inauguration. Laura Westbrook.
If his offer is accepted, it would be unprecedented. No Chinese leader has ever attended a U.S. presidential inauguration. Indeed, no foreign leaders have attended one in more than a century.
CBS News cites multiple sources who also say officials are making plans for other foreign dignitaries to attend the January 20th swearing-in ceremony. It's not clear whether Xi intends to accept the invitation.
Last month, he vowed to impose an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods unless Beijing does more to stop the flow of the drug fentanyl.
And support is growing for DJT's plans for mass deportation. Senator Ted Cruz says that more than 650 convicted criminals are on ICE's non-detained docket, meaning they are not locked up by the agency while they await immigration proceedings.
And of those 650,000, 14,944 have been convicted of homicide.
Cruz used a Capitol Hill hearing to blast Democrats who want amnesty for those who crossed the border illegally and have been living in the country for years.
What rational world says America's better off with more criminals? What resident of what blue state says, you know what, America's better off with 20,000 rapists being released into this country?
Time Magazine's editor-in-chief on the Today Show.
The person of the year who, for better or for worse, had the most influence on the news in 2024 is Donald Trump.
DJT, named Times Person of the Year. He was selected for what the magazine called a comeback of historic proportions, and that had to pain the editor-in-chief, Sam Jacobs. You know what? Let's hear it again.
The person of the year who, for better or for worse, had the most influence on the news is Donald Trump.
This looks like a job for me.
Authorities continue to link Luigi Mangione to the evidence surrounding the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said that the ghost gun allegedly found with Mangione was when he was arrested in Pennsylvania was matched to 3 shell casings recovered from the crime scene in Manhattan.
Dude, there's a sign up in Seattle right now on the side of the road that says one CEO down, many more to go.
My Lord, why does that surprise me?
Dude,
why doesn't that surprise me in
cared
Seattle?
about law and order.
Right.
Give me a break.
Oh,
The attacks on Trump were always an effort to try to get him off, and so he couldn't become president. And now that there's somebody that blatantly shot and murdered somebody in broad daylight, with intent. This isn't Daniel Penny trying to stop somebody on a subway.
Sure.
This guy purposely targeted to assassinate somebody, and the left is just cheering him along.
Didn't Trump say that he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose a voter?
That was Channel 9, Bill.
No, but didn't he say that though? No, but didn't Donald Trump claim that?
But
he claimed Donald Trump. No, but Donald Trump claimed. No, but again, your argument is who's cheering on what? He's arguing Donald Trump made the statement that he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose a voter. Just saying. When we're going to criticize people about
did people do it? Did his followers go out and shoot people on Fifth Avenue?
Not on Fifth Avenue, but we can talk about the Capitol.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, we have one
Nobody got shot at the Capitol.
No, people who died in the Capitol were conservatives and veterans.
Well, someone that was breaking through a window behind which there were lawmakers behind it, and if that's okay,
again,
I've got some
no
questions.
shootings. No shootings from Trump supporters.
Yeah, but we did have 140 law enforcement people who were injured that day. Some of which never were able to go back to the job. Some of which had to have surgery. Some of which received crushed vertebrae. Some of which had other spinal injuries.
There were other people who died, who at the hands of law enforcement or undercover law enforcement.
No, there was nobody died. There was nobody there died that under undercover law enforcement, Blake. That's incorrect. And the person that did die there on that day, that wasn't a medical emergency, was trying to break through a window that was barricaded. The door was barricaded.
I'm
They had law
pointing out
enforcement
that
behind.
there are signs in Chicago or in Seattle saying one CEO down, many more to go, and somehow we ended up with Trump.
No, all I'm saying, I'm just looking for some equity in the conversation at times, because if we're sitting here saying,
did Donald
well,
Trump encourage people to go shoot people? Because that's what that sign's doing.
Not necessarily.
One CEO down, many more to go.
Trying to normalize it, saying
where in that statement does it say go shoot them?
That's what it's referring to.
No, it's
cheering them
the death,
on.
But I know, but there was a lot of cheering on about people in January 6th too. We're doing a party.
Yeah, but the only people,
we're cheering.
the only
We're cheering them.
people killed were conservatives.
Someone that was one person that was trying to break through a barricaded door. I'm sorry, but don't tag them as conservative or liberal. Doesn't matter. They're trying to break through a barricaded door behind which there are lawmakers, and there was a person standing there holding a gun. And the person that got shot, Ashley Babbitt, was trying to crawl through a window that was busted out. I'm sorry, but if someone has a business or a home and someone breaks a window and is trying to crawl through and that person gets shot, no sympathy. Same thing here.
But
No
other
sympathy.
doors were being opened to allow them to get in and inviting them in to walk around and
again, we shouldn't
tour.
do this. We shouldn't do this today, but it wasn't invited and they weren't toured, and there's a reason behind that, and that's explained inside of the protocols for large groups, and we've gone through it before.
Time
They
will
weren't
tell.
invited in.
Time will tell.
Yes, and Tucker still hasn't found those undercover FBI agents. All this time, still hasn't found them.
There's plenty of video.
Where are they?
There. It's
Where is it?
all over.
Tucker
the place.
has it. No, Tucker has the video, and he can't point to a single undercover FBI agent. Not a single one, and he has every minute of the video. and he can't do it. He said he was going to. On his show, he stood up and said he was going to do it.
Be assassinated in broad daylight.
No, we do it at dark. Sorry, that was just tongue in cheek. I'm not saying it seriously. I just had to add that because sometimes the voice is in my head. It's very funny. Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. The next 4 years are going to be awesome. Albertsons is suing Kroger following a decision by a federal judge to block their merger plans. The grocery chain filed a lawsuit against its main competitor, accusing it of breaching its contract and claiming Kroger failed to do all of it. What is this? $25 billion merger, and the deal Albertsons is seeking billions of dollars in damages from Kroger, along with a $600 million termination fee. Grand jury has indicted a man in the collision that killed NHL star Johnny Gaudreau and his brother in southern New Jersey. A grand jury indicted Sean Higgins on a slew of charges, including aggravated manslaughter and reckless homicide. Higgins is accused of being drunk while driving and then hitting the Gaudreau brothers while they were riding bicycles in August. It's 25 in Westminster, 26 in Parker, 29 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the argument on that. I appreciate that.
Hey, have a good Denver today. Mid to upper 40s. A little bit more in the way of cloudiness tomorrow. 20s Friday night. The weekend starts off with not much going on. Denver will be in the low to mid 50s Saturday and Sunday. Sunday night, Monday morning, a few snow showers. Monday, a little bit colder. Another front arrives late Tuesday night and Wednesday, bringing some clouds, colder temperatures, and a few snow showers. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Oh boy, that kicked off a lot of text messages conversation. If you want to join, you can text us. It comes right into the studio, 720-819-5115, or give us a call on the studio line here at 303-696-1971. All right. Trump taps Kari Lake as head of Voice of America. Here's the Associated Press. President-elect Donald Trump said Wednesday that he's picking Kari Lake as director of Voice of America, installing a staunch loyalist who ran unsuccessfully as Arizona governor and senator to head the congressionally funded broadcaster that provides independent news reporting around the world. Is that true? Is it independent news reporting? I thought, Billy, you were saying that it's basically like American propaganda. Anyways, it reaches a lot of stations. I think well over 300 different stations around the world. I don't know that much about Voice of America. I see it when I travel internationally, but I don't know much about it. Does it have a big impact globally?
It is independent journalism as much as it can be not controlled by the states you're necessarily broadcasting it into and around. That's why it's independent, meaning that we control it. So that's where it comes from, the independent side. But it absolutely is the voice of America. And so it speaks with the voice. That's the idea. It's the thing that you do. You set up the radio station right next to the border of North Korea. And that's
broadcast it in. Now you're on the Armed Forces Network.
Yeah, I'm on AFN.
So what's the difference?
Armed Forces broadcast only to the bases. It's internal. It's an internal control.
Okay.
So it only goes to the 1,000 military institutions on the planet and the International Space Station. It's that. So it's that controlled. And there is a lot of things we got to do in order to get through the firewalls. A lot. It is really difficult. The checks that they have on the stuff that we send them and what we have to do is fairly strict. They run anything that we send them through a long process. It takes almost 3 times as long for any voice tracks that I send to AFN to get through the system versus a usual affiliate, because they're looking for nefarious actors. They're looking for string code that might be in there. They're looking for anything that could possibly be updated into the system that could give a nefarious actor access to the system. So there's a whole lot of things that we have to do. And there's 3 layers of uploading for even logs. Oh God, having to upload music into AFN. Oh, good Lord. You might as well have to take a blood test. It is, but I understand why, because it is a communications route that directly impacts and is heard on the bases. So that's different than Voice of America, which is the external broadcasting network. And that's one. And on a side note, I ran into, and this is really weird that we bring this up with the Voice of America right now. I went down a really weird rabbit hole about a week and a half, doing about a 40 minute quick documentary about an Englishman who was broadcasting into Nazi Germany and how he was one of the most effective guys at countering Nazi propaganda, and how
Isn't that
he went
Tokyo
about
Rose?
it. No, it was.
But I mean, on the other side,
yeah,
right? That
yeah,
same
on the
type
other
of thing, Tokyo
yeah.
Rose.
But they went after it completely differently, and how they created 40 different broadcasts, not necessarily stations, but shows, and what they were doing. And the brilliant thing about it is they were covering it and presenting it as if they were loyal Germans, but tongue-in-cheek telling you, no, we're the British, and we're telling you this. And they were using German POWs and a whole bunch of other stuff, and what they were doing to counteract the Nazi message inside of Germany, which was fascinating, because the thing that they found worked the most, being as vulgar as possible. And that was something that was a shock when they discovered it, that the more they had their host curse, the more the average German identified with them. It was a really interesting discovery for them, but I won't go down that rabbit hole too far. But yeah, it was phenomenal. And that's kind of what this is.
How long before progressives in Congress are calling for Voice of America to be defunded now that Carrie Lake's in charge of it?
Next Tuesday?
I was going to say, they're already tweeting it.
Yes, they already are. Yes, they already are. And it's just, for me, it's weird that, we talked about this a little off air. I can't figure out how Carrie Lake's going to balance being governor and senator and running Voice of America, because she doesn't think she lost the other two elections. So now she's got 3 jobs. That's amazing. She's going to have to be governor of Arizona while also running Voice of America, which the thing is, she's taking this job, which tells you exactly at her core whether or not she really thinks that she lost the governor's race, or whether or not she really thinks she lost the senator's race, or if it was just a bunch of propaganda, which could be an endorsement for Voice of America.
I love it when the progressives get all tied up on this stuff. So here we go. Budget for Voice of America, $267.5 million. They have a staff of 961 people. They reach a worldwide weekly audience of approximately 326 million. Holy cow. And he just handed it over to Carrie Lake.
Yeah, I know. Like, good luck with this.
I love it. I love it. One, because now we get to ask the honest questions whether or not the federal government should be funding these things, which, look, if Republicans cannot get PBS off the government dole, I'm going to have a hard time continuing to be a Republican, even though I will be. By the way, huge tweet yesterday on this, on the unaffiliated thing. I think I'm nearly like 20,000 impressions.
We should talk about that. One. That's a really good one.
But
really good one.
Look, the government shouldn't be funding PBS. It shouldn't be funding National Endowment of the Arts. You might be able to make the argument the Voice of America carries this and is a kind of American propaganda throughout the world. There's a role for it. All right. Is there a role for it when we're $36 trillion in debt? I don't know. Feel free to give me a call. But if this thing is going to exist and is going to reach all these people all across the globe, yes, absolutely put Carrie Lake in charge of it. One, because it will be good American propaganda, American first propaganda, none of this woke stuff. And number 2, man, it's going to drive the progressives crazy, and they might not want to fund it anymore. And all of a sudden, we get some fiscal conservatives out of the Democrats. So for both those reasons, I love it.
It's for me, it's funny. It's the idea that I understand why, based on, her news experience and presentation, but she recently has become, in my opinion, unmoored from reality. And I think that's a kind of an issue. If you're going to have her putting together propaganda that you want to change hearts and minds. However, maybe the idea is that being unmoored from reality is exactly the perfect qualification she needs for this. Because if she is so persuasive that she can get a ton of people to support her for these offices that she claims that she won and she didn't win, then maybe she's good at this. Maybe that whole idea of trafficking in the 2020 election lie and more, and the deep state lies and more that she is trafficked in, maybe that helps. Maybe that's actually a plus in this particular situation. You know, you never know.
I got to tell you, going back to this, if Republicans can't at least get PBS funding cut when we're $36 trillion in debt, like if you can't even get that done, why the hell are we even electing you anymore? And that's just crazy.
See, and that's an interesting one, because I don't think they're necessarily that large of a budget item. You could zero that out, and I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
No. I'm not saying it's going to make a huge difference, but like, it's like when your family's just racked up with credit card debt, and you're like, we can't even just eat in one day a month.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. Like, and I would find Republicans so inept. It's like the one thing that would make me seriously question still being a Republican.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you why that the GOP, in my opinion, is not at their core very interested in reducing the debt or curbing excess government spending at all. They're not really focused on it. And the idea of all this, I will say, crocodile tears about the rapidly increasing debt over the previous 12 to 18 months is nothing more than a performance in front of cameras in order to persuade voters that it is not part of their core.
I understand there are some things that are really hard, right? Like Social Security, Medicaid, those are so popular. Like, I understand that some things are or can be very politically hard to do, but PBS funding, like, it's not the 50s, dude.
Well, here's the thing.
We don't have like 4 channels, and the government needs a little. Everybody's got TikTok, everybody's got YouTube. You can become your own YouTube star. Why are we still, to the tune of millions of dollars, funding a place like PBS?
Well, rural access and poor families and things like that, because those people don't have access to TikTok and Instagram and other things like that.
Oh, dude, they all do.
No, they don't. And
yes,
the other part
they
is,
all have their own cell phones.
No, they don't, and they don't have coverage for, broadband Wi-Fi as well. We haven't been getting that into rural areas, so that doesn't necessarily exist. But here's the reason that I believe it is nothing more than a Trojan horse to complain about the funding for PBS, is because one of the first things, I would be surprised if they don't try to get it done in the first 100 days, is extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Going to have, and that is going to add $4 trillion to the deficit in the next decade. It's going to happen. It's what happened last time. It's what's going to happen this time. So if we are worried about a deficit expanding, if we are sitting here and all those lawmakers that cried crocodile tears, what are we doing to the kids and the future generations? And we can't do this. Elon Musk talking about how you can't run a business this way.
Billy, tax cuts don't increase the deficit.
Yes, they do. It's going to cost.
Improve revenue. It comes in and helps the country.
No, it doesn't. Well, then where did it happen?
You're just looking at progressive economists
where did it happen?
That believe that all the revenue we come in for this country only happens if we hammer the rich and steal all their money.
No, but how come it created a deficit during the last administration, during Trump's? It did.
Because we need to deal with spending.
No.
Not tax cuts. Spending.
So you think that you're going to be able to find $4 trillion in tax cuts and in spending cuts that you can make in order to offset?
Start with PBS,
but that's not even close, and that's the issue. And that's the issue.
That's why I'm saying if they can't even get that done,
and that's why. But they're not serious about it. Yeah, but they're not serious about it, because if you really were worried about the deficit, you don't extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And we've talked about the Laffer curve. The Laffer curve only works the top parts of it. It's not a true mathematical proof. It has no theorem backing behind it. It doesn't work universally. It doesn't work based on the numbers. It's not mathematically true. It's mathematically true inside of a very small window in which that can happen. And we had it last time, and it didn't happen. And it's not going to happen again. It's going to add another $4 trillion. It's what's weird about that and the Doge thing is, I remember it's got to be 8 years, maybe 10 years, people talking about unelected bureaucrats in Washington making choices. And last time
they have no power. They have actually no power. All they can recommend.
Yeah, I know. Last time I heard is that they weren't elected. They're just becoming bureaucrats. They're
Who
inside
are
the
just going to make
mechanism.
recommendations?
Yeah,
It's not like the federal government gave them any power to cut anything.
Yeah, but then again, someone that is a bureaucrat inside the Washington machine can't necessarily affect that large of a change either. If you're a mid-level accountant inside of the IRS, not much you can do there to affect any major change. Same thing.
But
You don't have
there's
the levers of
tens of
control.
thousands of them.
But you don't have the levers of control.
It's a deep state.
No, that's a fallacy.
All right, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Black Eyed Pea, where you should spend your money. Not with PBS, not with National Endowment of the Arts. Spend it over with our friends at Black Eyed Pea. It's locally owned, operated by Steve and Michelle. I love this restaurant. It's home-style cooking, worth going out for. They got 8 locations all over the city, so there's sure to be one near you. When's the last time you took the family to eat at the Black Eyed Pea? Here's what's great about it. All right, so it's comfort food. It's going to make you feel. It's also make America healthy again. Because for us on the conservative side, being healthy isn't eating what the crazy progressives are trying to tell you to eat. For us, it's about quality, healthy food. And when I go into the Black Eyed Pea, I get quality meatloaf, quality vegetables, even quality desserts, all handmade. This stuff's fresh, comes from Colorado. They've got daily specials. They've got senior discounts. My whole family loves it. My teenagers, my parents. So you got 3 generations there, okay? Be sure to check out some of their new items. The stuffed spuds, 8 different and delicious baked potatoes. Here's one, the chopped steak spud, the sweet pork spud, the meatloaf stuffed spud, and the broccoli and cheese stuffed spud. There's more. Everyone in your party is sure to find a favorite. So make your dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event a success. They even have Black Eyed Pea catering. And no matter what occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great, whether you purchase them for your spouse, birthday favors, or holiday presents. They have you covered. I love everything about this restaurant, and I know you will as well. Keep it in Colorado and visit a Black Eyed Pea near you. Bradman wants to know why we didn't put Kari Lake in charge of PBS. What would happen to Sesame Street if Kari Lake was in charge of it? Bill, what do you think?
Maybe she could be like Mr. Snuffleupagus back in the day, where she could be that person that nobody sees. that still is the best part of it.
Oh,
that's what we need.
Again, I love the fact that the whole world is going to get to be exposed to Kari Lake's thinking, and it is going to drive the progressives crazy to the point that maybe we shouldn't be funding all these government programs. What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Kaplan Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. So, Bill, speaking of parties, I went after the real golden calf in Colorado politics yesterday.
Ooh, what is that?
So, my wife and I were doing some numbers crunching.
Right.
We were looking at Elbert County voters and Douglas County voters, and we're looking at current voter registrations. And these numbers aren't accurate, but I'm using it for example purposes. Douglas County, it was like 50,000 registered Republicans to 15,000 registered Democrats to 250,000 registered unaffiliates. And when you look at that, you're like, well, how can I provide any type of analysis on the county, right? Yeah, that leans a little bit more Republican, but there's this giant amorphous blob of unaffiliated voters. So I tweeted out, people shouldn't be allowed to register as unaffiliated in Colorado. Pick a team. We're now at 25,000 views on this one. Over at KOA, Mandy Connell weighed in. She said, this is absurd. I'm no longer a Republican because the party here is not something I want to be associated with. Its current leadership. I should not be forced to, quote, pick a team when there is not a team I want to be a part of. I thought you were a freedom guy, Jeff. And I responded, I disagree. Our unwillingness to join political parties is reflected in our unwillingness to join anything. Churches, membership organizations, anything. We don't join anything. We're just amorphous, unprincipled floaters. Join a team, pick a team, be a part. It doesn't have to be Republican, it doesn't have to be Democrat. It could be Libertarian, it could be the Whig Party. But the fact that some of these counties are not just a little bit majority, but massive, amorphous, unaffiliated voters, to me, it just comes across as unprincipled. But Billy, you're a member of that community.
I think we're coming on almost 25-ish, I think. I have to go back and look. Yeah, I am a member of that amorphous blob, and I love it. It's fantastic. You should come and join us. We have cookies. Now, we have really good meetings, too.
You can't organize anything. They don't organize meetings. No.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
There's the unaffiliated.
Yes. And see, the fact is, since you're all unaffiliated, you get to stay at home. This meeting is just stay at home tonight, this Tuesday. Enjoy the meeting. That's it. Best meeting ever. Okay, yeah, I'm being a little facetious in this one. I like it and I appreciate it because for years I've wanted to just burn down both political parties. I feel that the political parties on both sides, and I think that we're seeing this reflected in some of Colorado's voter registration, are the idea that you have to choose a team, and once you put on the jersey, now you have to ascribe to everything that we do, and you have to support everything that we do. And you are somehow, again, we talk about there's a Rhino Watch website here in Colorado because someone that has chosen that R on their voter registration isn't pure enough, doesn't pass our test as to who should actually be allowed to wear the jersey. I see motivations on both sides of people trying to kick people out of the party and say, even though you've chosen to be part of us, you can't be. You need to be thrown out. What happened to Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger? They've been thrown out. Yet they are registered primaries. But they've been thrown out. They're persona non grata. It's not a matter of losing primaries. Liz Cheney isn't allowed to go to a Republican meeting. If she shows up in a Colorado Republican meeting, she's going to get booed. She's not going to be allowed. She's not going to be invited to be a speaker here. She's not allowed. She's a persona non grata in the party she grew up with, in which her father served as vice president, and she's not allowed. So the thing I have is that both political parties are spending more than enough time throwing people off the ship and voting people off the island. And now you're angry or frustrated or don't understand why a bunch of people are like, I'm not going to bother with this. I don't need to bother with this idea. And it's also, it's the idea of making sure that you have to march in lockstep with them. For me, the idea of being unaffiliated, and I got no problem if you would sit here and say that unaffiliated can't vote in any primary. I got no problem with that. I'm fine with that. I understand what the Republicans are trying to do. That no, I think you should allow people that are unaffiliated to vote in your primary, but I got no problem if you don't want us to, because I'm of the opinion you pick your best team and come and explain to me why I should cheer for them. I'll give you that grace.
Yeah.
Choose whoever you want and then come and make your case to me. But I'm not going to jump up and down in the stands and wave your flag and sing your song.
No, Bill,
just because
I think there's an exception. This is because you're a member of a church.
Yes.
But I think that this is indicative of a much larger issue. I think it's indicative of a much larger issue of people that just don't join things. They don't join churches. They don't join civic organizations. They hardly do teams. Teams is like the last thing they're willing to join. But they're not willing to be a part of the process. They don't go to caucuses. They don't want to shape the party. Any of that stuff. They're just
Because going to the caucuses, going to those meetings, sometimes is an exercise in futility, because you have to ascribe to our list of beliefs or things that we think are okay. And if not, then what are you doing here? You're not allowed to be here. When we talked about a number of, we've talked about it before, a number of candidates here in Colorado that were viewed as too liberal on abortion. They're pro-choice. They can't have that and still be a Republican. So those people should not have even been wearing the jersey. But yet then people complain, why aren't there more people wearing the jersey? And that's part of it, is these purity tests. And they have it on the Democrat side as well, in part because of the abortion ban. They have things to do with the racial preferences, and they have things to do with Green New Deal stuff. Yeah,
there's this argument, though, that if unaffiliated are involved, we're going to shift towards the middle, because they get to play in both party primaries and all that stuff. And since when I first came to Colorado, started working in politics 2012, I was born in Colorado, but came back after time in grad school and time in DC. It was a third. This state has gotten bigger and bigger numbers around unaffiliated. And ever since then, this state has gotten more progressive and deeper blue. It's like the more unaffiliated voters you have,
the more progressive you get.
Where and that's the idea is, and here's the idea is, if it was the idea of more unaffiliated voters, I think I'd have to look at national registration. Then why did we elect Donald Trump?
Yeah.
If you had, because the unaffiliateds are a large portion. I don't know nationally what the voter registration looks like. So I don't think the assumption should be, and I think it's a dangerous assumption to say that the unaffiliated voters lead to blue votes. What it might be, I disagree. And the reason
numbers used to be a third. Now it's huge numbers of unaffiliates. Republicans are tiny. There's actually fewer Republicans now than there were in 2012, even though we've added like 1 million people to the state.
The GOP's fault in Colorado. Isn't that their fault? It's not the fault of the unaffiliated. It's their fault because.
Well, hold on.
The blue direction of our state isn't the result of unaffiliates. I think it's almost entirely the result of unaffiliates. They're the largest voting bloc. They have the biggest sway. Our progressive hellhole, I tied directly to the unaffiliated voters.
They used to be Republicans, so they voted blue now. It's their fault. So people that were kicked out of the Republican Party or felt abandoned by the Republican Party here in Colorado, they're not libs. But there's a large portion of them, because we've seen voter registration for Republicans go down. That means people have left the party.
Yeah.
They have left it purposefully. They didn't leave it to become super libs. They didn't all of a sudden go from being conservative to being super liberal.
But
That didn't
that's
happen.
what we have super majority of super libs. They're so liberal. They
do little pro-power capital now.
Because there has been a lack of self-reflection inside of the Colorado GOP.
Why is it the GOP's fault?
No,
It's the GOP's fault. It's the unaffiliated voters' fault.
Whose party is shrinking? Which party is shrinking faster?
Yes, the Republicans.
Your
And the actual political power in the state
is putting people like Jared Polis in office. It's not Republicans that are putting Jared Polis in office.
Yes,
It's
you
the
are.
affiliated voters that put Jared Polis in office.
No, the GOP helps. The clown show. And because they've been that, we talk about, friend of the show over there at the Death Star over at KOA, Mandy Connell. Mandy Connell left the Colorado GOP. She can't be a GOP member in her words, not mine.
Right.
Yeah, because of what's happening inside the GOP. She's a conservative voter. She's not part of a blue wave.
Do you think
that's
she
elected
voted for
voters.
Jared Polis, or how do you know?
My guess, if I had to, and again, I have no idea, my guess is Ganal.
I bet she did too.
Yeah, but here's the idea. She's not, but you blamed her. She's unaffiliated. She's
Because
not,
they're
she's
the
not
ones
pulling
with
it.
the power.
But she's not pulling our state
If
left.
there was a
And
political
here's the
party
idea.
called the unaffiliated, they would dominate everything. And what they're choosing to do with their weight is put Democrats into power.
No, we wouldn't dominate everything. And the reason why is because we are a bunch of cats. We are amorphous and we don't have direction. Yes, absolutely. And that's why I disagree with you on the conclusion that they are the reason this state went blue, is because we are amorphous. We are not walking in lockstep, and we have different. Each one of us has principles and ideas, but we're not going to sit here and say that because I have certain principles, I will then acquiesce or bend to certain ones that we don't believe in simply because the party tells me I should. We are the independent thinkers. We are the people that are going to break away, and we're the people that are going to ask questions.
There's nothing independent about this state. It's a progressive blue hellhole. All right, join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. I want to talk to you about my good friends over at QC Kinetics. Look, are you going to start the new year dealing with the same old joint pain, losing sleep, not able to take walks, or do what you love because your knees or hips hurt? Guys, let's not start 2025 this way. Take action now. Get the pain relief you deserve. And I'm not talking about surgery. I'm not talking about drugs. Call QC Kinetics now. They utilize local medical professionals to implement advanced protocols in regenerative medicine that have helped tens of thousands of people. And this is lasting relief. So what do? Joel here in our office uses it. They take out part of your blood. They spin out the plasma. They put that plasma, which has healing properties, into your joints. And as a result, your body heals itself. Joel here, living, breathing, walking testimony to this. He's playing more golf.
Superior Highlands Ranch and the Springs. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is reacting after FBI Director Christopher Wray announced his plans to resign at the end of Joe Biden's term in January. Trump taking to social media to say the resignation of Christopher Wray is a great day for America as it will end the weaponization of what has become known. This hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is reacting after FBI Director Christopher Wray announced his plans to resign at the end of Joe Biden's term in January. Trump taking to social media to say the resignation of Christopher Wray is a great day for America as it will end the weaponization of what has become known as the United States Department of Injustice. I just don't know what happened to him. We will now restore the rule of law for all Americans. Under the leadership of Christopher Wray, the FBI illegally raided my home without cause, worked diligently on illegally impeaching and indicting me, and has done everything else to interfere with the success and future of America. Wray's announcement comes a week and a half after President Donald Trump announced his intention to nominate Kash Patel for the position. At a town hall meeting with the Bureau workforce, Wray said he would be stepping down after weeks of careful thought. Wanted posters showing the name and picture of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and other top-level executives have been spotted in New York City. Videos are being shared on social media showing the posters, and some of the signs show a big red X over Thompson's face, indicating that he has already been taken care of. Other posters featured the pictures and information of Optum CEO Heather Cianfrocco and United Health CEO Andrew Whitty. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
lot of conservatives to agree with you. Joy Overbeck even texted in to say, I hate this, but Billy's right on this one. I just think it's reflective of larger problem in our culture. We don't join things. We don't join civic centers, civic institutions. We don't join churches. We don't join political parties.
Yeah.
Pick a team, get in the fight, and you can't blame Republicans from my perspective because they're not the largest voting bloc. The largest voting blocs are unaffiliated voters, and they're putting not independents into office, crazy radical progressives.
I was just talking to Ron off the air. He's going to try to give us a call tomorrow because we're kind of tight on time, and he's a truck driver. He's unaffiliated, but he says, yes, Jeff, you've got a great, strong point that we don't like to join things anymore, and that is part of the impetus for some people becoming unaffiliated. Not his, but he said, yeah, you're right, that part of what we're doing is we don't have that idea of joining those community organizations, and if we did, maybe you'd see that impact or affect some of the voter registration as well.
Too.
It's a good point.
I think so. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Oops, we ran out of time. Sorry.
We did. It was an absolutely wonderful show. We talked San Diego, Sper Sanctuary City. We talked drones. We had a drone expert, one of our listeners, call in to tell us what he thinks is going on.
He flies ones that are those size. And
Yeah,
he talks
exactly.
about what we can and can't know about what we see just in the casual viewing. It's cool. So cool.
And then Caitlin Clark, whether or not she's succeeding in the WNBA because she's white. Interesting debate on that.
Yeah.
And then Carrie Lake, the Voice of America internationally. By the way, Joy Overbeck asked me to read the second part of a tweet she sent in. She goes, even Dave Williams has said in a debate that about the opt-out 3 years ago that about 40% of unaffiliated vote in the Republican primary, which means almost certain that they vote Republican in the general. We must go after them. Often they are low propensity voters. That's what Trump did, and that's why it was his winning strategy.
Good point.
So I blame the unaffiliates because I don't want to take any personal responsibility.
Because you just want to blame me. That's the end of the show.
Oh, boy. It's a wild ride. So if you missed
so
any of the
much
show, 710knus.com to download the podcast. Bill's going to be out tomorrow.
Yes.
But please, he's not going away. You don't have to text message that finally the manager is here at 710KNUS. Got it right.
But if it makes you feel better tomorrow, enjoy your delusion. I'm more than happy to allow you that for 24 hours.
Heidi Ganal will be joining me live in studio for the first 3 hours.
That's going to be cool.
It'll be a ton of fun. So don't miss it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.